Best Ball Breakfast, 4 Best Ball Mania drafts on tap today. We will get a solo draft with yours truly. Then at 11 a.m. Eastern, we will have Mark Denkenberg from ETR filling in for, of course, Adam Levitan, who is serving a one-show suspension due to conduct detrimental to the show last week. If you missed it, please don't go and water the bridge. Then we will have our noon Eastern guest, Sam Sherman, the defending BBM champ, followed by Pat Kerrane. 4 straight hours of best ball goodness. I'm Pete Overzet. This is Best Ball Breakfast. Let's do it.
Welcome to hot best ball summer. You slurp that suspension dipperino, honey?
Easy to click on Rashad White when it's all site credits.
Exodia.
Put the puppy in the bag, bro. I'm trying to grow the goddamn game.
The game is beatable, folks.
Slap King Summer, bitches.
7,000 hours of commercial-free best ball drafts starts now.
All right. How are we doing? We had people in the chat at 9:06 a.m. here. Jason says, thumbnail makes it look like Drake May is the third guest today. That's always what I'm trying to do. Just bait people into thinking that I got Drake May to come on the show. Yes, I'm sorry. You will be disappointed if you are hoping for Drake May to swing by. I feel like Drake May would be a pretty boring guest. I do see at some point in Drake May's career that he could have some interesting things to say. I don't know if he's quite there yet. We need him to get a little bit more cocky, a little more swagger, and then he'll be ready for Best Ball Breakfast. Although, yes, I would not turn him away right now. What is up to the audio listener crew? Of course, we will always service you audio listeners. I've been mentioning it the past few weeks. I mentioned it on Chip Chasing, but a lot of people now consuming over on Spotify. So shout out to our Spotify crew. You can get the video over there as well. And I know that's something a lot of people like about it, that you can kind of go back and forth between the video and the audio version of podcast, depending on, where you're at or what you're doing. So take advantage of that. It posts every Tuesday morning, the Best Ball Breakfast audio/video over on Spotify and all of your podcast apps of choice. Here's my guy, B. Stockel here. I'll give another shout out to Vasileros and Sons Coffee. I am in negotiations right now, early negotiations with B and his crew about a potential coffee sponsorship. We're starting to explore it, see if it would be a good fit here on Best Ball Breakfast. And I think with that said, I am going to try some of my new Vasileros and Sons Coffee. Let's get a coffee pour going here, and we'll be off to the races. There it is. I do have to be fully transparent. I did have a cold brew this morning. That's kind of been how I've been starting my day. But for Best Ball Breakfast, we are going to keep the ASMR pours going. You don't have to worry about that. GMs all around. Greg, happy Father's Day. How many beers did you drink to celebrate your life of fatherhood? So I had most of my beers and drinks on Friday night. It was my wife's 40th birthday. I threw her a surprise party. She never saw it coming. I invited friends from all different stages of her life. All of her bridesmaids from her wedding was there, her college friends. It was an incredible time. Completely surprised her. I put some photos up on my Instagram if you want to see it over there. And so that was Friday night. And I was pretty banged up on Saturday. We did some karaoke after as well. So that was an incredible night. As far as Father's Day, we got some pizza yesterday. I played in my men's league softball game. That was fun. Went to the pool for a little bit. So yeah, it was a very nice Father's Day. And now we're back at it here, doing what I love, drafting best ball teams on stream. It is true. If you guys haven't heard, I have, been receiving lots of allegations stemming from Davis Maddock in particular and my co-hosts on Ship Chasing that I'm not a true member of the best ball community because I'm not in 4,000 slow drafts right now. I have famously only drafted on stream so far this summer, and I have a lot of work to do to endear myself to the best ball community. And I do just want to say thank you to you guys. Right now, 227 people tuning in live here at the start to get a Redraft Bros thoughts on the best ball landscape. And I appreciate that. I know that takes a leap of faith from you guys to want to hear it from me. And I will make sure I don't let you guys down. Let's see here. We got Aaron Kenny, Naked Mahomes 5, The Reckoning. Yes, maybe I will put a Naked Mahomes up on the thumbnail next time. Right now we have a clothed Drake May. What does Pat like more, a clothed Drake May or a naked Patrick Mahomes? I guess I will ask him later today. Paul's at the beach. I'm jealous. That sounds nice. Service the blind, service the deaf, but do you service the blind and the deaf? No, but as best ball continues to grow, and if I can kind of attach myself to this, popular format, maybe I could hire someone to do sign language, have a translator stand over my shoulder, and then we could make sure that everyone was being serviced. I will do my best. Good morning, Perfectly Cromulent. Nice play, Pete. Get loaded at your wife's 40th. Exactly. Dane says, sounds like you've already got that coffee sponsorship money. I haven't yet. I did this one for free today. Well, not for free in that he sent me a lot of coffee, but yeah, we're laying the groundwork here. And I'm happy to shout out Vasileros for their great coffee here. Crutches says, let's hope the Sims don't ruin Pete's week this week. Seriously, I can't believe that was 1 week ago. If you guys missed it, I almost pulled off. What was it? Was it a Jalen Hurts, Devonta Smith, and a Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase double stack? And Crutches took it from me. Or I should say the Sims took it from me. That's just how it goes. That's how it goes. All right. I tipped you guys off in the Discord. Who wants to Best Ball Mania? Let's draft here. I am in. We need 2 more people. We should have some friends. We should have some family. Let's get this rolling here. And I'll get my, we got the 108 today. The 108. Let's get the solver pop in here. Who do I see in here? We got Roto Heat Craig. Got some non-Badgers. We got JJFC. Always a wild draft whenever JJFC is in here. You never know what that man is going to do. Should go and update my exposures as well, just to see what we're working with these days. Raylish says, how close are you following the World Cup? I would say decently close. I'm not, carving out time to watch full games other than the U.S. games. I watched most of U.S. Australia on Friday afternoon. Caught some of Spain yesterday. Got to see them laying it on. And I'm going to the game tomorrow. So I am going to England, Ghana at, not Gillette, at Boston Stadium. Tomorrow, I'm taking the whole day off, so I am not going to be there for Off and On the Clock. I assume John and Nez will have a show for you guys over on the Badge Bros if you're trying to get your fix. And then no Swolecast for me either. That game kicks off at 4. Going to be getting over there with plenty of advance to make sure that we can avoid the crowds and get in on time and all that good stuff. So yes, I am excited for that game tomorrow. England and Ghana should be a good one. Oh, yeah. So Arlocks, what's your take on these audits? Best Ball Data Muse seems so silly. So it's like anything in life, right? Like I don't have a problem with the internet. It's the people who weaponize it in the wrong way. I have no issue with these databases. PD, our guy, Patrick Donovan, has done an incredible job with BBMDB over the years. But the way internet trolls feel empowered to dunk on people like Davis because of their advance rates, it's very funny to me. It's funny to me because anyone who's trolled Davis for his advance rate or whatever would kill to have Davis's gig. It's honestly the entire impetus for So You Think You Can Tout. All these people who desperately would want to be Davis Maddock. Now, how do they cope through the fact that they're not Davis Maddock? Well, they make fun of his advance rates. But guess what? Every single one of those people would love to be able to free roll best ball in the same way Davis Maddock does. So it's kind of just the classic sour grapes. And, Davis exists in the public arena, so he also has to be willing to take it just in the same way I have to be willing to take it. But yeah, it's very rich coming from people who would absolutely swap spots in a heartbeat with Davis to be able to free roll their Best Ball Mania drafts. But yeah, I would say, take it easy on Davis, but I don't think you have to. I just think you're showing your ass when you do go after Davis in that regard. Is this draft frozen? What's going on here? My producer just alerted me to the fact. I guess so. What is going on here? Did I just miss my first pick? Does it say I'm not logged in? All right, we're going to have to do some triage here, guys. I have no clue what's going on with this draft right now. Let's see here. I do not want to be on autopilot mode. It looks like we have started Derrick Henry and Justin Jefferson. Did the draft freeze for anybody else? Or was that just me? Okay. Well, I thought that we were sitting in that room for a long time. So I took Justin Jefferson at 8 and Derrick Henry at 17. Let's see. Is that what I would have done if I was on the clock? No, I probably would have taken Jonathan Taylor. And then coming back around, what would I have done here? I would have probably have gone Kenneth Walker, I think. So there we go. We're going to get a sliding doors moment. It's funny, though, because I will always remember a Derrick Henry, Justin Jefferson combo because we did this in the FFPC main event one year. And we were debating whether to take the big dog in round 2. And it ended up becoming a meme that we were the only people in the entire tournament who had a Justin Jefferson and Derrick Henry share. It did not work out that year. And yet I will forever remember Justin Jefferson and Derrick Henry as being simpatico because of that specific draft. Froze for JJFC for a sec as well. The big dog will not be denied. That's right. He just finds a way onto my teams. First stream, Pete. It is my first best ball stream. It's a lot harder than it looks, guys. A lot harder than it looks. Speaking of Underdog, today we had breaking news. Nick Rudman is out at Underdog. Just want to give a shout out to him. I cannot think of someone more synonymous with Underdog than Nick Rudman. 6 years ago when I did my first deal with Underdog, Rudman was a big part of it. Part of that original OG crew, David Gamboa, Liz, who's no longer with the company, and Rudman. And it has been so fun to work alongside those guys for so many years. And, going back to doing the cardio club with Rudman, we launched BBM2 in Miami. I always remember Nick Rudman picking me up from the airport. That was back when the influencers at Underdog were such small fish relative to what they have now that someone like Rudman would actually come and pick you up at the airport for the festivities. And then just over the years, getting to know Rudman at the various events, at the Super Bowl parties, all of that good stuff. There was the infamous photo I took of Rudman as we were heading to the gym in Phoenix for one of the Super Bowl weekends. And that was when he got the bulletin board material he needed to finally hit leg day. And I think that bit still haunts him to this day based on comments I see whenever he posts shirtless photos or photos of him at the gym. But I'm rambling. Just wanted to say shout out to Nick Rudman. It will be hard to envision an Underdog without him. I think there's in my mind, the Underdog and Rudman brand. It's not like a Venn diagram. It's just a flat circle. And I'm excited to see what Rudman does next because it was a hell of a run. And he did so much for that company in getting Underdog to where it is today. I did take Zay Flowers in the 3rd. Trying to get back on track here. We went with a couple of Ravens. We will just go Baltimore maxing on this team. Justin Jefferson, Derrick Henry, auto drafted those first 2 picks, grabbed Zay Flowers in the 4th, and now we are back on the clock. I know Ladd popped up with a hamstring injury, which isn't great, but we can take some Ladd here. He does fall 5 picks. He was going, at the 3-4 turn. We were starting to see people pull Ladd into the late 3rd. It seems like the hamstring stuff is now getting his price to settle a little bit. But Malik Neighbors goes at 34 in this draft. Luther Burden goes at 35. Evans goes at 38. So we're kind of all over the place here early in this Best Ball Mania. Yep, you can go check it out on his Twitter here. Let's see, I'll read his post. I retweeted it this morning. Last week was my final week at Underdog. After 6+ years, it just felt like the right time. I could go on forever about what UD, my coworkers, and our customers mean to me. Eternally grateful for Jeremy and Brandon. It's been a completely insane ride. I never could have imagined when we started this. We'll always love this company. The first time I met Rudman was even before Underdog. It was when Draft hosted their first live final in Tennessee, in Nashville. Kerrane and I actually went out there. This is when we were working on the Fantasyland podcast for RotoViz, and we did a podcast about that live final experience. And Rudman and a few other of the Draft employees at the time were there. And it was so funny because and I don't know who the other employees were, but they were all in very good shape, all clearly weightlifters. And they were walking around in their Draft muscle t-shirts with fidget spinners in various merch for Draft. And it was just such a funny image having Nick Rudman come up to you and offer you a fidget spinner in a way where it felt menacing, like you better take this goddamn fidget spinner from this very large man. But yeah, Rudman has been in the trenches with Jeremy going way back when. I want to say they knew each other even from high school, back in their days growing up in Cambridge together. Correct. Rudman is the guy with the tiny legs. All right, we're about to pick in the 5th. I mean, this is going to be an auto click for Lamar. If he's here, he is here. I believe, is this my first? Because do I have any Derrick Henry or Zay Flowers teams? I don't think I do so far. So this is nice. So I get the full-on Baltimore stack here. Lamar, Derrick Henry, and Zay Flowers. We have Justin Jefferson in Ladd. And then we'll see what we're looking at in the early 6th. The thing about having to take Lamar there is, we are going to fall behind at running back a bit. I kind of had a choice there with the Ladd stuff, right? Where when you look back on it, do you bite the bullet on Josh Jacobs? Do you pull up Cam Scatterbo? I think I could have probably justified that, knowing I'm not necessarily going to love the running back option here at 65, but we shall see. We shall see. Yeah, exactly. Rohit, we could do this the easy way or the hard way, accepting the fidget spinner. Exactly. Best Ball Breakfast is Braille chasing on a fine morning. Absolutely. A reality show host's thoughts on football are what we are here for. Yeah, Judkins goes at pick 60. That feels like a nice value at that point after Price, Irving are off the board. Henderson now routinely sliding to the mid-5th. I feel like my X timeline has been nonstop Ramondre and Trevion Henderson discourse of late. Let's see here. I have not drafted much Carnell Tate. I will value hound Carnell Tate here at pick 66 if he falls, and he does. He does. I think this is one of those spots where generally I would be like, all right, let's get Chuba, let's get Tony Pollard, let's get Ramondre. But let's push this a bit. Let's push this a bit, see how this works out. I'm going to, Carnell Tate at pick 65. We now have Lamar at quarterback, Henry at running back, Jefferson, Zay, Ladd, Tate at wide receiver here. Thank you, Christopher. I needed to hear this. Not going to lie, the teams you draft solo are your best teams, Peter. I mean, I do think it is hard to get, because generally what happens a lot of times, I think it can work both ways, because some of the best teams I've ever drafted have been joint co-manager teams, because there's this element of you have your ideas, I have my ideas. Can we make them work in harmony, and it comes together and it like kind of balances out some of your own personal blind spots and biases to have someone else being like, no, let's not do that this time. However, it can also result in half measures, essentially, where you're not committed to the version or vision of a team. One of you is getting worried about running back and wants to just grab someone. The other of you isn't. And then you draft a watered down version of what you ideally would have drafted. So I do think it works both ways as far as that. But yeah, it's easier to have a vision for a team and know like, okay, I'm okay pushing running back till pick 100 or whatever my RB2 slot, versus if you're drafting with someone and they start getting sweaty with it. But I am going to need to start very soon. Maybe 4th of July weekend will be when I re-enter the best ball community and I start drafting more teams on my own. Angel asks, how far do you go with team stacks? 4+ players comfy. So yeah, I don't know if I have a hard and fast rule on how many players I would do. I will say, when I've now made my bet on Baltimore here with all of their premium pieces, Henry, Flowers, Lamar, I could definitely see myself adding a Mark Andrews, but I'm probably not going much beyond that. But if I do a back stack and I'm doing a ton of cheap pieces, then I am a little more willing to do 5, in some extreme cases, maybe 6. Holy cow, this worked out perfectly. Every single running back that I was debating before came back to me here. Ramondre, Jalen Warren, Tony Pollard. Chuba's really the only one that went. I will go ahead and take Ramondre here. I legitimately was thinking about pulling up a running back to 65, just kind of for structural reasons there before Tate fell. And now there's one running back that went between when I picked at 65 and when I grabbed Ramondre at 80. Only Chuba Hubbard went at 77. So getting Ramondre here, I mean, permission, Your Honor, to go back-to-back howls. I mean, it's only a 5-spot fall for Ramondre, but just in context of the positional run, that feels really good. That feels really good. Sell me on Zay Flowers go. A player who has been hyper productive his entire career. He's explosive, can win in all areas of the field, has zero competition for targets, is attached to one of the best quarterbacks and one of the best offenses in football. They also just lost Isaiah Likely. I mean, tell me why not to click Zay Flowers in every draft. That's more my question. So we could do Herbert here with Ladd, but I kind of want to push this quarterback stuff. I think with Jefferson and Kyler, with Tate and Cam Ward, I think we can grab another running back here. I do like Blake Corum a lot. And running back feels like something I want to continue to address in this range. That was a good bull case for Zay, but I'm going to need to hear the bear case now. The bear case for Zay is the team continues to stubbornly run the ball. Derrick Henry continues to find ways to succeed. They have a ton of positive game scripts where they're just not needing to throw the ball. Zay Flowers is basically rendered useless in the second half of games. They get mega year one breakouts from one of their 2 rookies. All of a sudden, Elijah Surratt is commanding targets over the middle of the field, and Zay Flowers is still more of just an outside deep threat as opposed to more of a possession receiver. And we basically get him returning around 6 value instead of around 3 or around 4 value. There's the bear case for Zay. They signed Debo. There you go. All right, let's take stock here. We grabbed Blake Corum as our running back 3. We have Lamar as our quarterback. Running backs, Derrick Henry, Ramondre, Blake Corum. Wide receiver, Jefferson, Zay, Ladd, Carnell, Tate. Quarterbacks are all here. Kyler Murray's ADP is 110. We're going to pick at 104 and then 113. The Addison drafter is behind us with no quarterback. So if we do want Kyler, we probably take him here. The tight end stuff, if I do go Kyler, it opens up Hawkinson. We still have Andrews later. Fan and Pitts are here. I think the play is we go Kyler. There's no overlapping by. We'll go Lamar and Kyler. I'm not seeing anything else I have to do here. I think we grab the quarterback. If I've learned anything in my short career as a best ball bro in 2026, it's that you rarely ever regret the quarterback selection. You can make almost any other position work for your team in the back half of the draft. But the quarterback, the stacks, the positional runs, that's the one piece that can single-handedly ruin a team. So I'm just always going to default to grabbing that quarterback if I think it's flat or I'm not feeling inspired elsewhere. Perfectly Cromulent says, historically, players have a 20% production spike in their first ever contract year. I'm drafting Zay and part of that, hoping he gets the Olave TD spike year. Yeah, obviously, touchdowns are a big part of that, and Zay has run poor in that department. You know what I'm going to do here? So, man, I am torn because I could go running back here. I'm getting a little bit more Matthew Golden pilled. I talked about Matthew Golden with Gretsch on After Dark on, what was it, Thursday night? And it's one I'm trying to be fluid with and not stubborn. I am a Jayden Reed bro through and through. And yet the early reporting is we are back to what it has always been with Jayden Reed, not playing in 2 wide receiver sets. It's Matthew Golden who's been playing in those 2 wide receiver sets with Christian Watson. And there is definitely an element of, they get rid of Wicks. They get rid of Romeo Doubs. It must mean that they feel good about Jayden Reed. Well, it also could mean they feel really good about Matthew Golden as a year 2 potential breakout. And I want to make sure that I am not over-indexing on Jayden Reed being the beneficiary of Wicks and Doubs being gone and forgetting about Matthew Golden. I think right now I've been probably like 60-30 in favor of Reed to Golden across my portfolio, and that seems wrong. That seems wrong, especially with Golden being the cheaper of the 2. Golden goes at pick 113. Where did Reed go in this draft? Jayden Reed went at pick 76. I want to have more Matthew Golden than Jayden Reed at these prices when it's all said and done. So I have some work to do, and that work started with grabbing Matthew Golden there at 113. Yes, I put this out on Twitter. Win tout ep, ready for some Jacob debates. So the debate episode of So You Think You Can Tell. Actually, let me make a pick here because I got to think through 2 things. So Jordan Mason would have made a ton of sense on this Kyler team. It is not the end of the world, though, because I would love to grab Mark Andrews as part of this Baltimore onslaught. Bill is also here. We should talk about Bill a little bit. He's been in the news. This, to me, is an obvious Mark Andrews selection. 2 picks past ADP. We get our full premium Baltimore onslaught. Lamar, Henry, Zay, Mark Andrews. We get our first tight end. It would have been tough to pass on Jordan Mason with Kyler. And I could have taken Aaron Jones instead of Matthew Golden. That would have been another way to play it. But like I said, I really feel the need to catch up on Matthew Golden, and I am going to take advantage of that opportunity. But what was I saying about So You Think You Can Tell? Yes, the debate tournament episode is going to debut tonight at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. We are doing a later live premiere. Generally, we've been doing them after Best Ball Breakfast, but we are also going to have a elimination live vote that's going to take place immediately following the episode at 9 p.m. Eastern. So that is going to happen on this channel. So you watch the premiere from 7:30 to 9. You will realize that there are some contestants at risk of going home. And then you'll come over here. And I don't want to give it away yet, but there's going to be a forum. There might be a secondary debate. And you guys are going to be tasked with deciding who stays in the show and who goes home. So that'll be tonight as well. I'm going to go ahead and grab Dallas Goedert here as my tight end 2, right at ADP. I was looking at Tyrone Tracy there. I haven't been as excited about Tracy just with how positive the news has been for Scatabo of late. So I'm cooling a little bit on him. And it does make me glad that I took Corum when I did, because I've now gone 4 straight picks away from running back, Kyler, Golden, and then double tap tight end, Mark Andrews and Dallas Goedert. Let's see here how we're looking with this team on the whole. 2-3-5-2, Lamar and Kyler, Derrick Henry, Ramondre, Blake Corum, Justin Jefferson, Zay Flowers, Ladd, Carnell Tate, Matthew Golden, Mark Andrews, Dallas Goedert. RM Cover says Kraft is the answer. The only thing I'd push back on is I think there can be multiple answers. I think there can be multiple answers in the Packers passing game. I like Watson a lot. I think they're going to throw the ball more this year. I think this could be a breakout year for Jordan Love, and I want to take bites of that entire apple. But yeah, I think it can be Kraft. I think it'd be Watson. And yeah, it's probably going to be one of Golden or Reed. Nick thinks I'm going to give away exactly what's going to happen tonight. Will it be the one person or the usual two? What does usual two mean? Usual? We have enough of a usual? No, you'll have to tune in to find out. Once you watch the episode, you will know exactly what's happening at 9 p.m. All right, let's see here. Jawan Jennings goes. I was going to stack him up with Kyler Murray. This is what I'm going to do. Cam Ward has slid a ton. I'm going to go ahead and grab Cam Ward to stack him up with Carnell Tate. I do really think there's both like an obvious and maybe not so obvious correlation between those two. Just the high-end outcomes where Cam Ward doesn't flop. It's probably because Carnell Tate's really good. And inversely, if Carnell Tate has an awesome year, it probably means Cam Ward is serviceable. And I am a sucker for these 3 quarterback builds. And then you give me Cam Ward a full round past ADP to stack up with his wide receiver 1. I'm going to go ahead and take it. Good stat here from Joe in the chat. Green Bay lost their number 1 and number 3 targets in Dobbs and Wicks, 160 targets available. Yeah, exactly why I think there could be multiple winners in this offense. Damn, Tajay Spears goes at 156. I thought he would have been perfect for this team. Obviously started to make a commitment to the Titans. Need a running back. Spears would have been perfect here at 161. And he goes 5 picks ahead of ADP. Oh, well. Oh, well. Let's see here. So we could probably do Hawkinson. It's just how far do I want to keep pushing this running back for? I do think I am more comfortable pushing it than I have been in previous drafts, even say a month ago. Let's go ahead and grab Hawkinson. So now we have this 3-3-5-3. Feel really good about the 5 wide receivers. And we're just going to go more spray and pray with running backs than we typically do. But I think I have some targets I like here at running back late that are both correlated and make sense for this team. And we're obviously done at quarterback. Lamar, Kyler, Cam Ward, Andrews, Goddard, Hawkinson. I need some more coffee, though. Pete True Serum, do you think Kyler will actually meaningfully run? Yeah, I do. I have a lot of faith in this new environment for him, this new coaching staff. I think they are going to maximize his skill set. And I think we have learned enough about Kyler over the years that he is a dynamic quarterback and a dynamic asset when he is running. But if you limit him to a pocket passer only, a lot of the appeal in the value add of him as a signal caller is completely removed. So I think they will absolutely find a way, whether with designed runs, giving him the green light on more scrambles. I think they will find a way to make him run, because otherwise, what's the point? What's the point? You should have just held on to Sam Darnold if you wanted a pocket passer. So yeah, I do think he's going to run. I find the conversations about his deep ball accuracy and how that pertains to Jordan Addison's value, like those are conversations I think are pretty interesting and worth having, but I am not worried about Kyler running the ball. You want to see the thumbnail? I'll show you the thumbnail for tonight. Boom. There's the thumbnail. Episode 6, Jacob Sanderson, 2 debaters, mystery debaters at a lectern. There you go. So You Think You Can Tout, 7:30 p.m. Eastern on the So You Think You Can Tout YouTube channel. All right, we are about to be back on the clock. We are only looking at running backs. And you know what? This is such a flat tier of wide receiver. I am just going to grab Singleton. I prefer Spears, but we have this Tennessee thing going. We need running back bodies. I know I'm going to end up with a few rookies here to pair up with the base 3, Derrick Henry, Ramondre Corum. So let's go ahead and grab Singleton. And then just know this entire tier of wide receiver, Branch, Adonai Mitchell, Jeremy, Ridley, Dell, Ayuk, Washington, Hurst, Wicks. We can live with any of these guys here. So 3 more picks, 3, 4, 5, 3. Probably, I don't know. Would we get to 7 wide receivers here? This could be a 6 wide receiver team. Jefferson, Zay, Ladd, Carnell Tate, Matthew Golden. We're going to end up feeling slightly weak at either running back or wide receiver. So it kind of just depends. Do we get to 6 running backs or 7 wide receivers? Let's see here. Adonai Mitchell. Yeah, let's do the Adonai Mitchell bring back here on the Kyler stuff. This pick feels really good to me. We need another wide receiver. The camp reports on Adonai Mitchell are awesome. They say he has an incredible rapport with Geno Smith, even more so than Garrett Wilson early on. And then we get the bring back to our Minnesota game there. The other bringbacks we would entertain, Cincinnati opposite Baltimore in week 17, although I just don't think there's much here. I'm done at tight end, so Gesicki's not on the menu. I guess you could make a case for Perine. Perine isn't the worst thought, but I think that's a correlation in concept more than in reality of how a Lamar Jackson Perine game would actually play out. And then Tennessee is Pittsburgh. I had been thinking about a Jeremy Bernard, but I ended up going Adonai Mitchell there instead. I think Jeremy would have been perfectly fine there as well. But we have 2 more picks. Missed the old-timey Judge Wig opportunity. Brother, we already did that. We did that for the Silva and Levitan episode. We can't go to that well twice. Did you miss this thumbnail? Look at this. See this one here? Yeah, we had Silva in the powdered wig. We had Levitan there with the gavel. Pete, on my Thursday stream with Trev, we let our partners draft the team. They took all 3 Tennessee running backs on an 8 running back team. Thoughts? I don't love all 3. I don't mind, like Spears and Singleton, I think are a fun way to bet against Pollard. All right, let's see here. 2 more picks. I think, did someone take Claiborne? No, someone didn't take Claiborne here. Claiborne makes sense. I've also been, let's see. How do I want to play this? Claiborne's at 213. Claiborne goes. My God. All right. I guess that's what I get for telegraphing it. The other running back I've been getting more interested in here is Jaydon Blue. I'll talk about him with Sam in a little bit. He talked about him with Kerrane on their show. That's fair. I wrote about Jaydon Blue in the newsletter the other day. I agree that he could very much be a riser. So I'm going to start grabbing some cheap shares of Jaydon Blue right now. Claiborne would have made sense with this Minnesota stuff. And now we have 1 more pick. I was going to maybe do both Claiborne and Jaydon Blue, but Claiborne goes. So now I'm at a 3-5-6-3. Derrick Henry, Ramondre, Blake Corum, Singleton, Jaydon Blue. Does this room need more running back juice or more wide receiver juice? At wide receiver, it has Jefferson, Zay, Ladd, Carnell Tate, Matthew Golden, Adonai Mitchell. I think we could definitely rock with that crew. Solver likes Cooper Kupp, Kayshon Boutte, Samaje Perine. We could do the Perine thing. I also like the George Holani stuff still on on teams where you need a little bit more early season running back production. Looking at this team, could Corum still be on the 60-30 side with Kerrane? Sure. Could Singleton be a 0 early? Sure. Could Blue be a 0 early? Absolutely. Do we grab some more early season running back points? And I feel better about getting that from George Holani than I do Perine. I think we're going to grab Holani here. I think this room needs it. We don't have any specific correlations with Seattle. I guess they play the Rams in week 16, but this is more of an early season play. It's a bet against Price earning the coach's trust early. It's a bet against Sharbs being ready. And it's a bet that Holani is ahead of Emmanuel Wilson right now on the depth chart, which all indications from camp is he has been playing with the 1s, Emmanuel Wilson with the 2s, and Price with the 3s. So I think getting to 6 running backs there makes sense, considering we only had 3 through 89, and then our 4th was at 176. Zach Silverman says, what do you mean by bring back? So I am talking about a player in a game opposite one of my main stacks in week 17. So you can see here on the screen, because the solver shows me all the playoff stacks. I made big bets on Baltimore, Minnesota, Tennessee. So a lot of best ball bros here are already familiar with this concept, but let's do it for Zach and not make the assumption that my fellow redraft bros know what we're talking about. But the thought is this, Zach, if we make it to the week 17 finals in Best Ball Mania, and we are competing against, I'm trying to pull it up here, 667 other teams to win $2 million. We are going to need our main stacks to go off, right? We are going to need Baltimore to go crazy versus the Bengals. We are going to need Kyler Murray and these Vikings to go crazy against the Jets. We are going to need Cam Ward to go crazy against the Steelers. So the thought is this. If we do get that incredible performance from one of these teams, it's likely because the other team is pushing them. It's likely that the game is sped up, that there are big plays. And when that happens, we want to reduce the number of things we have to get right. And it makes sense for us to select a player, if we think the value is flat, who plays opposite one of these stacks. So Adonai Mitchell, for me, is like the platonic ideal of what I want in a bring back, because he hits in a way that actually helps this thesis of they are going to be playing the Vikings. How do I get the ball back in Kyler's hands? How do I get him throwing the ball to Justin Jefferson and Hawkinson as quick as possible? Well, it's not with long, methodical drives by the Jets. It's because Adonai Mitchell houses a 70-yard TD reception and immediately puts the ball back in the Vikings' hands, gets me more possessions, gets me more fantasy points. So that is the thought behind a bring back, is that instead of trying to nail all of these one-off pieces from these games, this guy scores the most points, you just identify via correlation 1, 2, potentially 3 game environments in the case of this team that go crazy, and then you reap the benefits of all of those points across both sides of the roster. In the hierarchy of things we're trying to accomplish in these drafts, it is not the most important. I care more about the team level stacks than I do the bringbacks. But when I was looking at these late round wide receivers and deciding between a random Cooper Kupp or Kayshon Boutte, I'm going to break a tie away in favor of a player who I think has that spike week potential in a game environment I already care about. How is he doing all this as a redraft guy? I'm speechless. I will say, Zach, if you legitimately want to learn more about it, over on the Deposit Kingdom channel, I have made multiple videos over the years that go in depth on these strategies. So you can go over here. Let's see. There's some old videos here. There's the week 17 is all that matters. And you can go through here. Here you go. Week 17 is all that matters from 4 years ago. There's a lot of evergreen videos. I think the playlist is probably your best bet. You can go over here and you can check out some of these strategy videos over the years. There's also a really good one on the Eliminator as well if you're trying to get caught up to speed on that. All right. Let's go and recap this team. I think it went decently. There were a few spots I was hoping to get a faller to make this team kind of fully work in the way I would have liked. But on the whole, I think it was decent. I think you could nitpick some of my QB3 tight end 3 decisions before getting, a better 4th running back or maybe a better 5th wide receiver. But let's see here. Let's see. Lamar Jackson, Kyler, and Cam Ward at quarterback. Derrick Henry, Ramondre Stevenson, Blake Corum, Nicholas Singleton, Jaydon Blue, George Halani at running back. Wide receivers, Jefferson, Zay, Ladd, Carnell Tate, Matthew Golden, A.D. Mitchell. And then 3 tight ends, Mark Andrews, Dallas Goedert, T.J. Hawkinson. Let's go ahead and get our draft report from this as well. One of the nice things you guys can do with the solver is after a draft, it generates this little report over here on the draft reports tab. You can download that image and you can get some high level information about the team you just drafted. So you can see my team stacks, my build, draft capital by position. You can see the spots I reached. I was having to reach a decent bit at running back in the later part of the draft, which makes sense. That was kind of my position of need. Did get value on Cam Ward, on Ramondre, got value on a lot of my wide receivers as well, decently on my tight ends. And then, yeah, makes sense that being behind at running back is where I got a little bit more antsy to lock those guys up and reached ahead of ADP. My game stacks, not a ton. We have just the Minnesota Jets bring back there a little bit of week 15 and week 16. Andrew says 3rd quarterback is unnecessary. Sure. Yeah, I think it can go either way. I definitely have a preference for the 3rd option. I think the most interesting thing is to look at the board and say, what did we sacrifice by going to Cam Ward there? Because I think you can also look back and say, oh, wide receiver 7 is unnecessary, or running back 6 is unnecessary. I took him at 152. I was going to take Jawan Jennings because that would have been part of my big Kyler stack. You're looking at Jalen Naylor, Denzel Boston. I guess Spears was the play. If I go Spears here, does Cam Ward continue to fall? Probably not. And I probably end up with a 2-6-7-2. I also could have potentially set up a Geno thing, but the 80 play came much later. So I'm probably not messing around with Geno there. So yeah, that's probably the difference. You do a 2-6-7-3, and it's basically Spears instead of Cam Ward. And then instead of Holani, I'm grabbing a 7th wide receiver. I'm grabbing a guy like Brazel, Surratt, if I really am feeling frisky. So yeah, on that 2v2, I don't know. I think it's close. What would you rather prefer? Cam Ward in an 18th round wide receiver, or Cam Ward and George Halani, or Spears in an 18th wide receiver with only 2 running backs? I think it's kind of a coin flip depending on your preferences there and how much you think Spears really mattered to this team. But yeah, I think it is a luxury pick based on those 2v2s. I would not have passed on something that made a ton of sense for this team, like Jawan Jennings as my stacked up wide receiver 6 there. Greg says that quarterbacks have been falling over the last few weeks. I have noticed that a little bit as well, too. Some of that initial panic for that 3rd quarterback has definitely eased a little bit. People more willing to do, a 2-quarterback team like this, the Joe Burrow, Drake May, and shut it down. Even this team in the 6 hole that took Patrick Mahomes and Jordan Love, they stopped at 2 there. But then you see the team from the 5 hole, they go Herbert, Lawrence, same draft capital spent in the 8th and 9th round. they come back and add Geno Smith there. I assume, did they have Garrett Wilson? I guess I don't know why they added Geno Smith there. Man, I just noticed that a team in the 12 hole named Mike Skull 13, that's Skull SK, or I guess it's Sokol. I didn't know if that was an homage to the Vikings, but they did take JJ McCarthy at pick 205. Now, this is a quarterback room. Baker Mayfield, Aaron Rodgers, and JJ McCarthy. Yeah, I think it's close for sure. Like the 2 QBs in the window, I do think Kyler is a bit of a tweener there. Like Lamar Kyler, I completely agree. I could have shut it down and it wouldn't have been the worst thing in the world. But to me too, it's like, you know, one of the ways I've always approached quarterback over the years before this really QB thirsty landscape materialized was if you have a stack and you get a value on it, you just scoop it up. You just scoop it up. And that's kind of what happened with Cam Ward here. It wasn't like panicking to get a third quarterback for no reason. I had taken Carnell Tate at 65 and then Cam Ward falls a full round. Speaking of the solver here, make sure you guys use promo code Pete if you want to check it out. You can get 20% off the solver. Really, really have enjoyed having it as my co-pilot during these drafts. There are 2 different price points. If you guys are only doing drafts at $99 or less entry fee, you can do the $34.99 subscription a month. If you are doing drafts at $100 or more in entry fees, then you can pony up for the subscription that is $74.99. But regardless of which subscription you use, you can get 20% off with promo code Pete there. Get access to the configuration options. You can slide how much you want ADPs to matter, stacking, etc. This is as it pertains to the solver suggestions. And then my favorite thing is just this widget here that pops out, allows me to toggle on and off, see my various combos here. I can look at my Zay Flowers and Lamar Jackson teams and see what players as I'm going, I've already paired with them. Like apparently 50% of my Lamar and Zay Flowers teams have Cooper Kupp on them. So that will be helpful as the offseason progresses for kind of fine tuning some of those combos in the portfolio. Davey says, what are your thoughts on a player like Neighbors in the Eliminator? I think he's an extremely tough click in the Eliminator, partly because his price does not seem to have adjusted enough. Like if we go and look at his ADP, let's compare it real quick. And then we're going to bring Mark on in a second here, Mark Dank. So Neighbors in BBM in the traditional contest goes at 31.7. 31.7. In the Eliminator, Neighbors is going at 41.7. So you are getting a discount that's format specific, which makes sense. I would still argue it is probably not enough. It is not enough to only slide 10 picks. It's basically the exact inverse as a format as far as week 17 is all that matters. Those first 6 weeks are all that matters. And to take a 0 from your early 4th round pick, I think is pretty hard to overcome for 5 to 6 straight weeks. You got to get 6 of 12 out of the first week, and then you're 1v1, and you're taking 0 from the 4th round pick, 0, 0, 0, 0. Potentially muted production when he does come back. I'm trying to think of where I would have him in my ranks, but I would probably need to, at least in the 5th round, probably 6th round, where I'd feel comfortable eating that 0 for the late season upside. Obviously, this can change if the reporting is really bullish on his recovery, but based on the news of the additional scope and everything right now, it seems very unlikely he is contributing points to your team early on. And I just think, man, like, look at who he goes next to in these He's going by Luther Burden, Mike Evans, Ted Arroyo, Adams, Waddle. Is he so much better than those guys that you can take a 0 for 1/3 of the season? I don't know. I think when you get to more of the Flyers, the Carnell Tates, the Romes, the Brian Thomases, okay, now it's a conversation. But man, for some of these known commodities, it's a really, really tough click. All right. Let's see here. As we bring on our guest of honor today, this is an appropriate question from Jason. Just jumped on. Why would you suspend Levitan? If anything, make him a co-host. That draft was amazing. He is a co-host. In fact, he's a co-host. He was supposed to be a co-host for the entire summer, and we suspended him for 1 week based on his attitude last week. Mark, welcome onto the show. Do you think that one week suspension was justified?
All I think is this circle needs to be bigger. I want my big, beautiful Drake May face even larger on this screen. So no comment on Levitan. He's out there golfing for a charity, it sounds like, this morning, mid suspension. He's enjoying this suspension. So I don't know, Pete, what do you say as lead host here, lead dog?
I think, well, first of all, do we think he's wearing a polo shirt today when he's out playing golf? That's the first question.
I think he got bullied into it. It sounds like.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, we will have discussions with Adam Levitan. It probably involves an apology. It probably involves him hosting a big dog draft, because that's what I actually want to see, Mark. Is he said, let me see me on the sticks. And I want to say bet. Like, absolutely, I will call your bluff on that one. I want to see you host in draft. Although I think I know what he's going to do. He's not going to ask me who I want. He's just going to click whoever he wants. He's just going to load that queue up with every single player he wants. Absolutely. And then he's going to act like, the clock ran out and I didn't get Pete's opinion. So I think you're absolutely right there. So we got some stuff to work through. If you guys are confused what we're talking about, watch last week's episode with Adam Levitan. We're off to a really rocky start, but I've done drafts with Mark. We've had Mark on off and on the clock, and I trust that we are going to draft a banger today. Mark, let the people know, what do you do over at ETR for people who aren't familiar?
Yeah, so I'm the NFL and NBA projections lead over at ETR. So obviously now tilting more in the NFL season, myself and Jack Miller handling pretty much all the inputs to the player projection and team level modeling that feeds into the best ball rankings we have at Established to Run. And then obviously in season, we are doing the projections alongside Leone for all the DFS content out there as well. So this time of the off season, we're trying to grind the news, making some minor edits, but this is a bit of a quieter time of year. But yeah, NFL projections lead at ETR.
And I got excited because I did After Dark with Gretsch on Thursday night, and he referenced that you guys were going to be getting in the lab soon for the annual projections podcast.
Nice. Yeah. That is a big announcement here. We are going to start that this week. Myself and Jack are taking Leone's spot on the, very heralded Establish the Edge projections breakdown pod with Gretsch. So that's going to be starting today or tomorrow. We're recording our first episode, and that'll be live this week. So super excited to do that with Gretsch this year. As a big time listener, over the last few seasons of that, it's going to be awesome to be a contributor. So yeah, I can't wait for that. That is definitely one of those, there's a few moments each year of like, all right, this is the start of the new season. We just started doing our first high stakes drafts. We're in our FFPC main event slow draft. That feels like, all right, the new season is here. And when I listen to you guys in that podcast previously with Leone and Gretsch, and now with you guys and Gretsch, that's when I know, all right, it's time to roll up the sleeves. The season is almost here. Absolutely. And that's my wife's family has a place up in northern Michigan. We typically do a trip there in July, and there's like a local municipal basketball court at the park that I go to, and I always fire up like that projections breakdown pod. And so instead of doing that this year, I'll be the one recording, which is a little wild. I agree. That's always like a nice signal of we're in peak off season and time to get down and dirty. What have been some of the trickiest spots for you guys right now? I know you guys are always updating your rankings and projections. I'll actually get some updated ranks in before we start drafting, but what have been the ones that have been big arguments or discussions at the water cooler right now? I think the toughest teams overall, the Jaguars continue to be tough, both in the backfield and the wide receiver room there. It's just a little bit difficult to know exactly how the breakdown is going to go there. You obviously had the Chris Rodriguez, foot surgery news that probably tilted things a little bit in the backfield. We did add a little to Bashal Tutin off that. And then, kind of the constant just decision and conversation around Brian Thomas, Parker Washington, Jacoby Myers, and then Travis Hunter, how the target share is going to break down there. The Jags are a common one for sure. I would say the Colts as well is a team we've talked a lot about with the Alec Pierce offseason surgery. You have the Josh Downs and 2 wide receiver sets kind of claim going around, and how much that's going to play out. We all love Josh Downs and hope he can be on the field more. So just trying to break down exactly how the playing time is going to go there. I would say those are probably 2 of the biggest. Bears, always a hot name, but for the most part at this point in time, I think the Jags, and we had an ETR retreat a few weeks ago. We were asked, multiple times, what are the toughest teams to project? And I think the Jags, certainly as like one of the good teams to have and target in fantasy, is one of the ones I struggle with the most.
Yeah, because it's always interesting with a team like the Jags where we all want, and I was just talking about this with the chat with the Packers, right? We want there to be a winner and loser, and the Jags could shape up to be a team where they're all just solid and are all slightly losses at cost relative to their ADP. Like, that's the scenario no one wants.
100%. And I was listening to your first hour of the show, and I also love Jaydon Reed. Was a little bit more skeptical on Matthew Golden, but kind of as you're going through the target tree here, the Packers are another great one that we consistently talk through. And just that, man, coming into the last few seasons, it's like, how do we fit this target share on 6 different wide receivers for the Packers? And now it's like, oh man, they pretty much only have 3 that we feel confident can get targets. And you had Tucker Kraft in there, and then you kind of have this, lingering issue with Josh Jacobs that could maybe bleed into the season. And you're like, man, there is a ton of opportunity up for grabs here in this Green Bay passing core. And so, is it as simple as, hey, Matthew Golden, Christian Watson, Jaydon Reed are going to stay healthy and be out there in 3 wide receiver sets all year? If that's the case, I think they're going to smash. But you also have the case with Christian Watson. He's never really been able to handle consistent high volume. His career high in targets is 66 targets. So, in a season. So he's never been a huge volume guy. It's one of those things. It's like, is this a dead zone running back spot where we're transferring to the wide receivers? Hey, the volume's got to go somewhere. One of these guys has to take it. But I do think that probably is the case in this spot, that, if multiple of these guys break out this season, I wouldn't be super surprised, just given the opportunity that's there.
I'm curious, how you guys go about thinking through what premium do you want to put on specific reports. Obviously, the name of the game at this time of the year is there are some actionable nuggets probably there. It's really hard to know which ones actually are, which one's coach speak, what's beat reporter speak, which we know, can have his pitfalls. But like, one I've been thinking about is Josh Downs and the Jaydon Reed one. And I think I'm going to write about it for the Fantasy Life newsletter at some point this week. But it's like, those are 2 guys where it's not hard to forecast them stepping into bigger roles. It's been the whole bugaboo their entire career. They get pushed to the, side in 2 wide receiver sets. The reporting on Downs right now is really good. Like, he's going to be the dude. We're going to move him all around the formation. He's going to fill that Pittman void. And then the Reed stuff, that was where I wanted it to be like Josh Downs. And it's like, well, actually Matthew Golden's out here on the field in 2 wide receiver sets. So like, using those 2 as an example, do you take those reports as face value? Do you still bake in uncertainty? Because obviously the difference in there could be like they smash their ADP or they're one of the biggest traps on the board.
I think it's certainly tough. There's multiple things to talk through here. I think, like with Josh Downs, you also have when you get reports that he's playing in 2 wide receiver sets in OTAs, it's like, okay, well, Alec Pierce is injured. He's not even out there as an option. So like, would that be happening if Alec Pierce is healthy and at practice? I'm not sure necessarily. I think one of the biggest aspects of this is experience, like doing this year over year, season over season, to try and kind of read through those tea leaves. And that's where having Silva on staff, Levitan, those guys have decades of knowledge, kind of reading through the BS and what's actionable, stuff like that. And so, for Josh Downs too, I think it's, well, his if he plays more outside, who is that taking away from? Ashton Doolin, and then in Green Bay, it's like, okay, if Jaden Reed plays more outside, who's that taking away from? It's Christian Watson and it's Matthew Golden, who, Golden they used a first round pick on last year, whereas Ashton Doolin, not necessarily a ton of investment there from the Colts. So I think more personally, I would be a bigger believer that Josh Downs could get more 2 wide receiver reps than Jaden Reed, just kind of comparing the situations there. But, it's certainly all case by case. And at this point in the offseason, I think it's probably a little bit better to underreact than overreact. I think, these guys are practicing in shorts and padless at this point in time. So you get a lot of reports of, oh, the speedy wide receiver is looking amazing. And in OTAs, you hear that with like Isaiah Bond and Xavier Worthy for the Chiefs. And, Pat Thorman had a tweet this morning kind of highlighting some of like the standouts in camp, and more than half of them are like just, speedy, fast wide receivers. So I think just kind of the more time that you absorb these reports, you get a little bit better at deciphering what's news and what's noise.
For sure. And I mean, the phrase I always think of about this time of the year, and, you don't want to overreact, you don't want to underreact. I always like the word recalibration or calibration, where it's like, yeah, you're shifting just slightly. And like, I had the moment with Jaden Reed of like, I just click him. And it was like a sobering moment. And again, it's not like I'm all of a sudden drafting Golden where Reed is going. It's just like, oh, I'm going to pass on Reed a few times here, not force the issue, let Golden fall into my lap. And so that's how I think about all of it, because also, what's the point of drafting now in being hyper engaged with all of the news cycle if you aren't actually going to use it? In that case, just trust the ETR ranks, log off of Twitter, don't consume any news, and just draft your teams. But if we are going to be in the thick of it, I do want to constantly calibrate with new information.
Yeah, and our goal at ETR is so that you can sit down at your computer for the first time, upload our ranks, and feel pretty good about the team you can draft. Obviously, if you want some more personal import or input or leans on that, following the summer news could potentially help you in a couple spots. But just know that, yeah, we certainly have it covered. There's multiple eyes on reports, every single day, and we're constantly talking about that stuff. So hopefully providing the best rankings out there possible at this time of the year for all those best ball drafts. And speaking of which, Pete, not to make your job a little harder, I did just push a fresh set of rankings. We have ADP that updates every morning that gets slightly incorporated. So I just pushed those out to the ETR site. Hopefully you can get the latest refresh there.
1108. I see it. So I will download that as we get rolling here. There was another question. Greg wants to know why the solver is so badly in love with Cooper Kupp. Every time I'm in the 18th round, it tells me to click Cooper Kupp.
For sure. And we've been talking about Cooper Kupp. Calvin Ridley is another one of those veteran wide receivers we're well above market on right now. I think I kind of think the bottom line to me is I don't think people understand how kind of like weak the volume profile is for players in the 17th and 18th rounds. For Cooper Kupp, we have him projected for 61 targets. So, less than 4 targets per game, 3.6 targets per game, assuming full health for Cooper Kupp. And for us, kind of talking through the wide receiver core there, it seems obviously, Jackson Smith and Jigba is number 1, and then Rashid Shaheed likely number 2. And then Cooper Kupp, given just the success of the Seahawks team, like Cooper Kupp is a great football player. They really value him out there for not only the pass game, but also the running game, great blocker, really high football IQ. So a team like the Seahawks, we just think Cooper Kupp's going to be out on the field still. Even though Torrey Horton, could be an ascending guy there, and they have Rashid Shaheed. We didn't see Shaheed and Horton play much together down the stretch after that trade there. But, just think Cooper Kupp, given his value to the team, is going to be out there. And again, the amount of volume you need to pop in rankings at the end of drafts is pretty minimal.
All right, Mark, we are underway in a draft, my 56th Best Ball Mania. I already feel so relaxed knowing I don't have to face the hostile, defensive, petulant behavior of one Mr. Adam Levitan. We're going to pick at 1-7. We got the ranks uploaded here. Christian McCaffrey, Jefferson, Amon-Ra, CeeDee Lamb, Jonathan Taylor. You guys are lower on JT than consensus. McCaffrey goes. What would you like to do here at 1-7?
I'm good with Jefferson or St. Brown. I think just pick off one of those top wide receivers there. Let's
do a St. Brown just because I did just do a Jefferson, and also I am shockingly low on Amon-Ra, not necessarily by design, but just kind of the RNG of how these round ones have shaken out. Only 1.6% before that click. So we'll start with Amon-Ra here.
Let's smooth that out. Absolutely. And yeah, love Amon-Ra. I mean, he's an absolute beast. I think, you know, he was knocked for not having enough upside in best ball early on, but man, I really think he's shown that. And especially just given the continuity that the Lions have there. Love St. Brown.
That was my thing. When I look at round one, there's basically there's 3 players who don't have the same quarterback as they did last year: Justin Jefferson, Ashton Genty, and Bijan Robinson. And I think with Bijan, it's just like there really isn't a concern necessarily. It's not like it's a huge downgrade, you know, from whatever to whoever wins between Tua and Penix. Genty, everyone expects Mendoza to be an upgrade on Geno, but Jefferson with Kyler, that's the one quarterback variable continuity or lack of continuity that in round one does give me a little pause and makes me want to default to an Amon-Ra or CeeDee Lamb over him.
Sure, for sure. The unknown is always a little scary sometimes, and you do have the aspect, you know, if Kyler wasn't able to stay healthy, which, you know, he's only played 17 games, one of the last 5 seasons. So, you know, if we do get more JJ McCarthy starts in there, could potentially go south. But you know, it's picking nits for sure. Obviously, Justin Jefferson, one of the best wide receivers in the league.
Derrick Henry goes. By rank, we're looking at 2 wide receivers: A.J. Brown, Nico Collins, Hampton in the conversation here. Achane a little lower in your ranks. Who is your favorite here?
I like A.J. Brown. I'd also be fine with Hampton, just given the value, if you'd like.
Let's go with AJB here. Let's go with AJB. And, you know, I do think you can make the structural lean toward the running back there. I have, along with your guys' rank, been a little, why is our board froze here? I'm going to refresh again to make sure. I believe I have the queue set, so we should be good. But I think I'm with you guys. Sorry, this draft is this frozen for anyone else?
Okay,
I know a bunch of you guys.
This is why you set the queue. This is why you set the queue, Pete.
The queue is set, but I'm just wondering what's going on. I know we got Nick, Crutches, MacNova, the whole crew, Charlie. Let me know. Is this draft frozen for you guys as well? I can DM Numi if so. I will try to keep refreshing. What was I going to say here? While we're
talking
getting
through AJ Brown and O'Marion Hampton, why we're a little bit low.
Because Levitan was on here, I don't know if it was last week or 2 weeks ago, and I know he's kind of IKBing Keaton Mitchell, thinks he's going to be used a lot more. Where do you fall on that with the Chargers backfield?
It's certainly a tough spot because, you know, O'Marion Hampton, they kind of, well, first you have the new offensive coordinator there, obviously, and Mike McDaniel. So you can throw last season's numbers out a little bit just in terms of the split. But when Hampton came back from that ankle injury, you know, they really started to split the work a bit with Kamani Vidal. And then when they invest in someone like Keaton Mitchell, you know, that's a pretty clear signal that, you know, Hampton might not be kind of like the lion's share workload, 70-75% of touches that we hope for. And certainly, you know, so I think you can say, okay, Hampton and Vidal are certainly Hampton and Mitchell are certainly getting touches. And then if Kamani Vidal, who Jim Harbaugh seemed to love towards the end of last year, if he starts getting in the mix, then you're dealing with 3 bodies there. So, you know, it's a little tough in that regard, but and it's also not like we are have like a super negative rank on Hampton. We have him 20th overall there. He's just going really high at 15. So again, you know, it's not like, oh man, we hate O'Marion Hampton, we think he's a horrible fantasy player. You know, we still have him in the top 20. Just think right now an Underdog at 15 is it might be a little rich.
It does look like the entire internet is suffering some issues with Cloudflare potentially being down. I did shoot Numi a message. I know sometimes if it's on the Underdog side, they can, you know, take the controller out, blow on it, and plug it back in. I'm not sure what bigger internet issues we have, but I do like the idea. You know, I often think in life, you know, Mark, where I'm like, oh, if I just had an infinite amount of time, I could spend all my time doing this. I've always wondered, you know, if I had an infinite amount of time to make a round 2 selection, what would I do? And now we can continue to talk this through. It looks like I can continue to adjust the queue here as well. So we can really get to the nitty gritty here. What is the best pick at 2-6, Mark?
Let's just go. Yeah. Every single player, full profile, when we're taking them, why we're taking them. Nico Collins, is he the best wide receiver in the league? Devon Achane, why do we hate him? It's Brock Bowers. Is he going to have the best tight end season of all time? Where do you want to go here, Pete?
Yeah, we'll see here. Although someone just said Charlie's multi-tabling a puppy, and that's not frozen. So we'll see if we can get this unfrozen here in a second. Yeah, I mean, the AJ Brown stuff is interesting too, because his price is now kind of coming up, now that the market did its thing and double counting him being on the Patriots. And part of me, on the surface, you're like, this is a guy we used to draft at 107, 108. I think you can argue this is a situational upgrade. I think you could say, a better quarterback, more targets available without a Devonta Smith level presence. And yet, are there issues of where he's at in his career, the volatility of the Patriots still wanting to be a team that establishes it on the ground, where it's almost like a trap that the grass wasn't greener on the other side?
I love this spot for AJ Brown and landing with the Patriots. And man, I think the volume upside could be pretty massive here. They certainly have a decent amount of bodies in the wide receiver room, so there are ways you can kind of detract from the volume upside if you really wanted to. But just given, I think, kind of how things played out, wide receivers, I love kind of playing like the vindictive wide receiver angle. They just seem so petty and like they want to shove it on their former employer more than any other position almost. And AJ Brown, he's turning 29 this week, it looks like. So still, I think on the good side of the aging curve, especially when we're talking, a single season of best ball. And then I just want to bet on Drake May is arguably the most accurate quarterback in the NFL, kind of put that on display last year. If you get that with AJ Brown's speed and athleticism, I think that's an amazing pairing. And we're a little ahead of ADP right now. I love like AJ Brown in the second round.
Yeah. And I did just check because people freaked me out and said some of their drafts were working on their phone. I just checked on my phone too, and it's frozen there. So I think we were all frozen together. Yeah, we've all checked it here. So, a draft hangs in the balance. We are going to hyper analyze every single selection that has been made. I mean, the Jonathan Taylor, you guys were a little bit lower on him. We were just talking about Jonathan Taylor in our FFPC main event because we had the 108 and we were debating between like a CMC or Taylor. Obviously, the full point PPR there is a huge element. But even here in redraft or in best ball, in best ball, is it just as simple as, hey, Jonathan Taylor is due for touchdown regression and isn't going to catch as many balls?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think my first comment would be the margins are really slim between these first round guys. Like I know Jamar Chase, Puka Nacua, and JSN, like we have them all projected within 2 points of each other and half PPR scoring. And so again, even though we have Jonathan Taylor like 10th compared to the 6th ADP ranking, the percentage difference is massive there. But I think our all volume case, we have JT with the highest percentage of team rush attempts among running backs. We have him for 275 carries, 1,200 yards, 11 touchdowns. I think a pretty massive projection. The volume or the target volume one is a good one to bring up because he did have a pretty massive spike last year with Daniel Jones at quarterback. So maybe, especially with Daniel Jones coming off the Achilles, maybe that's a spot that we shouldn't expect to regress as much and kind of keep up the elevated targets there. So that might be a spot. We're at 41 on targets on Jonathan Taylor. He got up to 55 last year. So again, he did stay healthy and play all 17 games last year, though. That's also a pretty big component there too. And something that we'll hit with Gretsch on. Oh, looks like clock's moving. Something we'll hit with Gretsch is that we are typically a little bit more conservative on season long projections, just kind of baking in injury risk and that things aren't going to go exactly as planned the whole time. So I think, take these like raw numbers with a grain of salt in terms of volume projections, but certainly the target share one, that's probably something I'll toss out in like our projections channel and see if we want to maybe come up a little bit on him in that regard. But I certainly think the rushing projection is about as full as it can get.
Lots of theories as to what happened. My first one is that Underdog was always only running by Nick Rudman on some kind of like hamster wheel bench press. And the second he stopped and announced he was leaving the company, then the draft ceased to work. There's also some theories that Levitan is sabotaging the show from the links. Once we finally started using the queue that made him boil. So yes, let us know your theories as to what happened, but we are underway here. I was going to be forced to title the video something like there are only 17 players who matter in fantasy because we only got through 17 picks, but we will get to see this through. Amon-Ra and AJ Brown to start. The big question when you do this, Mark, is, okay, how comfortable are you going to be pushing it at running back? Or do you kind of bite the bullet and make sure you are getting at least one in the next 2 rounds?
Yeah, I'd like to get one in the next 2 rounds. I have stumbled onto some 0 RB teams, especially from kind of like the 3-4 hole. Sometimes, I don't get the back, or, I just opt for wide receivers in those spots and don't get the backs necessarily in the 2nd or 3rd round. And then kind of at the 4 or 5 turn, I feel like I like the wide receiver options more than the running backs as well. I'd be in camp for Kerrane here over Olave if you want to do that. That would probably be something. Yeah.
Let's do Olave, Kerrane. Let's do Kerrane. The Olave news, there was a little concern that he's been missing some time, but then it sounds like he does plan to rejoin the team for camp here soon. Is that what you've been saying?
Yeah, it sounded like he had some blood clotting issues and was on blood thinners, but was scheduled to get off the blood thinners at the end of June and, be full go by training camp. So it's a bit of an unknown on why he, I guess what the blood thinners were necessary for. You always think some sort of blood clotting thing, but as of now, it seems like he is on track and going to be fine for camp, which starts in about a month now.
Awesome. Yeah, that's another one too with like some of these injuries. We were talking about it with Ladd as well. Speaking of that calibration thing, like how would you ideally play it, knowing that drafters are likely to react to it a little bit? Is that one where you just draft him at your current value and say, hey, this hamstring thing isn't going to be an issue? Or do you say to yourself, no, I do want a little bit of a discount if he is dealing with this right now?
At the end of June, I don't really want to take that into account much. I'd probably just take the value that drafters are giving us at this point in the offseason, especially with kind of the idea that we are drafting all offseason. If you can find little pockets of value for players, that's kind of what I want to take into account. If it's a minor hamstring thing, that does not concern me at this point of the offseason. If it's, kind of like the Chris Rodriguez foot surgery or the Alec Pierce, this is going to be a longer recovery than we thought. Surgeries I will pay more attention to, but when it's kind of a minor hamstring in June, that doesn't concern me all that much.
All right. We do see Olave. Where did Olave go? He went just 1 pick right after us. And now we have Kerrane, Amon-Ra, AJ Brown. Looking at ADP, we're in the Jacobs, Luther Burden, Scatabo, Evans range. ETR, of course, very bullish on Adams. So one of those choices, do you pull him up here or do you play the ADP game more?
I would play the Burden ADP game, especially with the week 17 correlation there with the Lions. I found that Adams often slips back into the 5th. And so even though he's at the top of the queue often and in the 4th round, I end up trying to push that to the 5th round. Otherwise, you'd end up with a massive bag of Davante Adams.
Yeah, and I think that's always another good talking point. And I know whether it was with Leone or Levitan, we always hit on it as well of some people want to use the rankings very literally, and I think that's fine. Like if you were doing one draft and it's like, I want to draft the best possible team because I trust the ETR ranks. But if you're drafting a portfolio, taking Davante Adams at the rank time and time again is a quick way to hemorrhage value.
100%. So I definitely think it's a single draft versus portfolio draft type of mentality. And hopefully we do cover that enough in content. If you are a ranking subscriber, I highly recommend listening to shows and streams like this to kind of get some of the soft skills that go along with drafting. But yeah, if you're doing one team, I don't think it'd be crazy to take Davante Adams there at all.
Why do you think, because I do generally, the market does start to follow you guys on ranks. A lot of people use ETR ranks. You'll see guys creep up when ETR does kind of deem that there's an efficiency. Why do you think Adams, for the most part, isn't really moving in tandem with your rank? Why do you think people are skeptical of Adams right now?
I'm not sure. That's a great question. I think this offseason we have felt that our stands against ADP have moved less than previous seasons. I'm not sure if you have a take there as you use kind of multiple ranking sets. We're on the clock though. Who's that top
Yeah.
name? I can't see it.
It's Montgomery and Bucky are, I think, probably the best choices here. Do you have a favorite?
Sure. Let's go Demont.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
that works out really well with going with the 2 wide receiver start to get Montgomery sliding 6 picks past ADP here is pretty nice.
Yeah, and Bucky is I cannot wait to talk to Gretch about Bucky Irving specifically, because he is someone that Jack and I have talked a lot about. We've talked a lot about at just ETR in general. Is like, okay, with Bucky, obviously they bring in Kenneth Gainwell. He's probably slotted into more of the pass game role, and then you have Sean Tucker, who was the goal line back for a different offensive coordinator last year. You know, the Bucs are on their 3rd offensive coordinator in 3 years here. But if Bucky doesn't necessarily have the goal line role on lock or the pass down role on lock, like where does the high fantasy outcomes come from? And I want to bet on the talent of Bucky Irving from what we saw his rookie season, but I am just a little bit skeptical there. And you have the shoulder issue that he dealt with, and maybe not 100% there yet either. So I'm a little worried about that. I again, I can't wait to see Gretch's opinion and what he thinks on the Bucky spot specifically.
Yeah, and the thing I'm wondering is, in the same way I hate anytime I click Khalil Shakir, I ask myself, is it because I'm judging him on when he was a 6th round pick and flopped? And the price is so different now where I'm like, am I too down on Bucky because I'm judging him on his old round 2 price? And I look alongside Henderson, I look alongside Tootin. Isn't this the range where we are making the leap of faith bet on talent, where there are attack vectors, there's chances of getting squeezed in high value roles? And so then I'm like, through that lens, doesn't he belong here? Isn't he a good pick here? That's kind of what I always think through with Bucky.
For sure. And the bull cases, if you take Bucky and he has a good season, or like the talent, he should be able to beat out Sean Tucker for that goal line role. So, there are certainly bull cases as well, but through my lens has been more bearish at this point.
So we're about to pick at 6-6. For all the haters and losers, I have updated the queue by ETR ranks here by ADP. The only other one that sneaks in is Marvin Harrison, who just goes. The solver likes Drake May. We could also pull the trigger on Tyler Warren. What do you think?
I'd probably go Drake May here.
Yeah. Stack
Again,
that
just
up.
just kind of mentioned, I love that pairing of May and AJ Brown this year. Drake May is also someone that he has scrambled at a pretty outrageous rate through his first couple seasons, over a double-digit scramble rate through those first 2 years, and that's one on like the season-long projections. We're a bit below that. It's hard to get those guys above that. That's also why I've been taking Jaden Daniels a ton. I love the quarter. I almost want to leave almost every draft with a Lamar, Jaydon, or Drake May type in these couple rounds here. I just think the prices on them are pretty outstanding right now.
I felt the same way and this is kind of like a rule over the years, when the board feels flat and no running back or wide receiver or tight end really stands out, specifically running back or wide receiver, if there is the chance to lock up an elite onesie, especially in a landscape where quarterback runs happen, and having the flexibility to free up another roster spot with just a 2 quarterback build, it makes Daniels, May, Hurst stand out in such a big way.
Definitely. And the 3 quarterback, I think is the meta right now. And so I do kind of like, if I can take like multiple guys in these, 6 through 10 rounds, I do like just kind of leaving a draft with 2. And then, you open up spots, especially, I still have been going a little bit more wide receiver heavy maybe than kind of the rest of the field. And so I do kind of want to stack up the running back bets towards the end of the draft. So I've tilted more towards trying to get, or lean into the 2 quarterback builds when possible, just to open up another running back spot.
For sure. So here's our team so far. We started out with Amon-Ra. We come back. We grabbed AJ Brown as time froze. And then we grabbed Kyren Williams in the middle of the 3rd. We took Luther Burden in the 4th. Adams did end up going at the 4-5 turn. David Montgomery slides to us in the middle of the 5th. So we get our 2nd running back. And then the board's pretty flat. We decide to grab Drake May to stack up with AJ Brown. Now we're back on the clock here looking at rank. It's Pollard, Sutton, Rico, Dak by ADP. There's some quarterbacks here as well. What do you think?
I would probably lean Pollard, but if you want to go wide receiver, I'm fine with Sutton as well. We could also go Jaden Reed if, hitting on that conversation. I think Pollard, though.
Yeah, let's do Pollard. You guys have him ranked 61. We get him picked at 79. Again, when I think you have both an ADP value, it's marginal, 3 picks, but a huge rankings value. Those are spots that I want to lean into. I think people are they just have ageist kind of concerns for Pollard at this time. Maybe some Nicholas Singleton concerns, maybe some systemic offense concerns if Cam Ward flops. But why are you guys so bullish on Pollard?
Yeah, I think you nailed all the detractions there. I think for us, we don't see Nick Singleton as very much of a threat. We think his most likely role is just as a kick returner on this team, and that Pollard and Tyjae Spears are going to continue to handle pretty much all the running back touches there. Also a little bit of excitement on maybe their offensive line being a little bit better this year. Pollard just hasn't been nearly as explosive the last couple of years, despite getting a heavy touch count. So I think it's again just one of those spots we feel probably a little bit better about Pollard's role as the RB1 than the market does.
Hashtag testimonials from Neil. This is the dustiest running back room of all time. ... Love the team.
A lot of touchdowns in our future with Kerrane and David Montgomery. That's all I have to say.
So by ETR ranks, Sutton, Laporta, Reed, Corum here. Obviously Goff and Caleb, but Caleb is gone now as far as another potential stack. So nothing we need to do with quarterback here. Godwin is one, I believe last time we talked when you were on Off and on the Clock, he was one you were pretty bullish on relative to his ADP. Sutton versus Godwin's a pretty interesting one, I think.
For sure. I think, you could easily make the case the volume upside for Chris Godwin is a bit higher there. Just given the Mike Evans departure. And Sutton, you bring in Jaylen Waddle, who, is the wide receiver one there right now. I'd probably take Sutton. We also have the week 17 correlation there. Maybe we can get Chris Godwin on in the next rounds potentially. But that's another spot I'm eager to talk to Gretch about, because that's one, like, if you take Mike Evans off the field for the Bucs over the last couple of years, the Chris Godwin target shares are pretty massive. And so it's mostly a bet like, okay, can Chris Godwin stay healthy? Is he washed, at age 30, coming off like that severe lower leg and ankle injury? I think if you have confidence over Chris Godwin's health, I think he's going to be a pretty big draft day value. Again, I don't have, or it's hard to say, right? I mean, what do you think about age 30 wide receiver who's had, a couple down years and the most recent like good season we had ended with, a severe lower leg injury? Like, it's, maybe not the easiest sell that he's going to be 100%.
Yeah, for sure. I think if you set aside the health stuff, to me, I think there's a lot more downside risk for Sutton with Waddle coming in and getting kind of little broed by Jaylen Waddle as a guy who was an insane prospect. And also we've seen command huge target shares. Like, I think Sutton could be proven to be a bit of a de facto wide receiver one than actually someone who deserves those honors at this stage in his career. Whereas Godwin, it's almost like the opposite. He's been good whenever he's been healthy. Now you remove Evans. Can you get a volume uptick? I also like playing the Bucs through the cheaper wide receivers. I find the Igbuka price tag, I think along with you guys, to be a little frothy. So, gun to my head, best ball bro, take one of these guys. I might just click Godwin, but I do think kind of playing it via the portfolio ADP perspective makes sense.
Yeah, those are the tough decisions when you're on the clock. Do I take this ADP follower with a little correlation there with Sutton, or do I lean more into my gut and just take Godwin again and kind of build up a Godwin bag? Those are tough. I agree. If it's myself, maybe I'll feel a little frothy, as you said, and take Godwin, but certainly happy with either choice there.
All right, we're on the clock. Laporta's interesting past ADP here if we want to try to set up Laporta for sure thing. You like it?
Yeah, we already have Amon-Ra. Yep.
Yeah, in Laporta, I would say if there's a few players who people notice, whether they're drafting with the solver or ETR ranks, over and over again, Laporta is someone in this range that I know you guys are slightly higher on than market. Is the thought just like, hey, this is a guy who we've previously drafted as a round 4, round 5 pedigree as far as an elite tight end, and now we're getting him 50 picks later, just scoop it up?
Yeah, I think it's a spot if Laporta was coming in healthy, if you didn't have the offseason back surgery last season, I think Laporta would probably be, more like a 6th round pick, 6th, 7th round pick most likely, just given the upside he's shown and as a young tight end and an offense we feel great about. I think it's a pretty big discount you're getting just because of the injury history there. And it's not like, not like they really added any competition in that room. Isaac Tesla was a pretty horrible target earner last year. I don't think necessarily that'll change too much. And then you have the upside case too on the Lions. If any of Amon-Ra or Jameson Williams go down, then Laporta is likely to step into an even larger role there.
Yeah, we grab Laporta at 103, get our first tight end. So here's the squad as we head into the 10th round. We got Drake May at quarterback, Kerrane, David Montgomery, and Pollard at running back. We got those 4 wide receivers, Amon-Ra, AJ Brown, Luther Burden, Sutton, and we do grab Laporta 6 picks past ADP. I'm curious, how do you think, because one of the things I go back to, and it's kind of like the winners and losers thing, like Godwin versus Igbuka, Sutton versus Waddle. Do you like thinking of those kind of fragile situations as there being a winner and loser and you want to kind of play it one way or the other? Or do you still like the idea of, hey, if Bo Nix and Sean Payton, this offense cook, I want both Waddle and Sutton. I want both Baker, Igbuka, and Godwin.
I think in best ball, I'm more likely to try and stack it all up rather than choose a single winner and just hope, the team correlation is what I need to have a really strong regular season. And then in the playoffs as well, I think season long is probably a spot where I would just probably choose one of Waddle or Sutton that I think, maybe has a better case to emerge as the clear alpha there. But I think in best ball specifically, I like to lean into the offense performing well.
So we did lose Goddard, Stafford, Kelsey, Aaron Jones, Wan'Dale Robinson, Wan'Dale, Kelsey. Who do you like?
Let's go Wan'Dale.
All right, we'll grab Wan'Dale Robinson there. Where did we lose Goff? Goff went. I thought Goff was still on the board. The JMO drafter took him at 101, so that makes sense.
Yeah, he was scoping us out, and this is a spot where it's like, man, if we took Godwin over Sutton, then we would have had the Baker stack as well. So, definitely don't love the way that played out there. But I think Wan'Dale, it does open up a Cam Ward option. We can also, if we ended up wanting to take Baker too, there are McMillan and Kaytron towards the end and some Ted Hurst. We could get into that as well.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. And this is a good question from Lundar too. Would love to know if Mark can tell us the minimum QBs he'd draft to stick with too. I was kind of talking through this in my first draft where I did a Lamar, Kyler, and then tacked on Cam Ward. He's saying if you have a Trevor Lawrence and Nix, do you feel like you've spent enough capital to shut it down at 2, or how aggressively are you targeting that third quarterback?
It's all draft dependent. I think with T-Law and Nix, let's say I have DK Metcalf as well. And if Aaron Rodgers is there towards the end of the draft, I'd probably be inclined to add a third one onto there. For your first draft with Lamar and Kyler starting 2, I probably would have stopped there. Personally, just thinking that's enough draft capital at quarterback. It is a little situation dependent. T-Law and Nix, I think is, I'd probably be fine stopping at 2 there. You could see both of those guys being top 10 quarterbacks, I think for sure. So, it's certainly draft dependent and who you also have at your skill groups. If you want to, tie in a third stack, I think that's the move. But I wouldn't just take a third quarterback if I didn't have any other correlation there.
All right. Here we go. So best available by rank here. You can see in the queue, Dalton Kincaid, Baker, Goddard, Andrews, Rodriguez, Malik Willis. We are certainly in the tight end and quarterback range by ADP. Baker is up there. Dobbs also in the conversation. What do you want to do here?
I don't have much Dobbs. Since we have that stack, I might lean there and then we can push quarterback.
Oh, Dobbs just went. Do you want to go Rodriguez?
Let's go.
Value?
No, let's go with either Baker or Willis.
Okay. I grabbed Baker at the last second there. I was curious how far you're willing to push the Rodriguez slide right now. You guys have him at 121, ADP's 126. I saw him 135 to 140 in some drafts. Is that kind of the target range you're looking at for him?
I think so. And I'm a little bit more worried about getting shut out at quarterback. Given, I feel decent about our first 3 running backs. I kind of felt, a quarterback there was a little bit more important. And yeah, just doing some drafts the last couple of weeks. Chris Rodriguez has fallen a bit more into like the 130s pretty consistently, I think. So, just kind of take that into account, and he may be available the next rounds.
And Baker's a pretty easy one to backstack when you have Otton, you have Hurst, you have McMillan. Never shut out of the Baker play there at 127. He falls from 119 down to 127, and then it takes the pressure off of you with, if you don't want to reach for the Cam Ward or set up another backstack. We will see if we get the Rodriguez fall here. I'm going to load the queue with best available by ranks, by ADP, or by rank. It's Goddard, Rodriguez, Tracy, Stroud, Darnold. By ADP, it's Rodriguez, Tracy, Goddard, Shaheed. Tracy goes. What are you eyeing on or zeroing in on here?
Yeah, if C-Rod is there, I think that is a pretty good click for me. Now he just goes. I'd probably not take. Man, I would think. Feel a little bit bad taking Baker there with Cam Ward coming back around. We are a little bit low on Cam Ward. I don't know how do you feel there on taking the third versus kind of just leaning elsewhere and hoping. We add some bucks to the Baker stack and go 2 QBs.
Yeah, it definitely got wiped here. We could also do, Woody Marks isn't speaking to me here. I say we get the third quarterback. Who do you want?
Yeah,
you want to grab Ward?
Yeah, go Ward, yeah.
Okay, it'll be a Cam Ward kind of day. We'll grab him. We do have Tony Pollard. There are backstack options. So we get the 3 quarterbacks, May, Baker, Cam Ward. I mean, running back was wiped. We were just in like Woody Marks, Pacheco territory. Wide receiver, we have a solid 5 up here with Amon-Ra, AJ Brown, Burden, Sutton, Wandell. And then tight end, you're never too worried about there. We could have done, the Goddard or whatever. But I think that third quarterback was the play.
Yeah, and for that tight end, I do want to hold out a spot for Kaytron. With the Baker stack, not to play our forecast our hand too much there, but I do want to stack up Baker certainly. So that was a spot though. Like if we already had Chris Godwin and Baker, I would have been fine rolling 2 QBs and then kind of building out, taking Goddard or going a different direction there for sure.
Yeah, and I would say, again, like positionally, it's basically how do you feel about the running back room to this point? But again, if there was a target there, Rodriguez, Tracy, I think we probably take both of those guys, Mitchell, even if he falls. But at that point, Coleman comes off the board, and it's like we're now in a really, really flat running back tier. So I think you kind of just have to let it go, even if you are feeling antsy at running back in that spot.
For sure. Yeah, it would have been great to get, I think, the C-Rod fall there for us, but overall fine with it. I think, build, I think we're looking at maybe a 3-6-7-2. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think you're right. I could also potentially see a third tight end. Chat's going crazy for Gunnar Helm right now. Maybe some scenarios where we really punt tight end 2 and 3. I would say a sweat here that would be interesting, and I'm curious to talk through how you're thinking about the rest of the Bucs wide receivers is, would you pull the trigger on a Jalen McMillan here at 151?
Yeah, I think I would.
Yeah, he is here. It's past ADP and stacked up for us.
Yeah, for sure.
The by rank, it's like Gadsden, Sadiq, Henry, a bunch of tight end options. So I think McMillan really stands out.
Yeah, I'd like McMillan.
Where I am curious, after I say all of that, I think he absolutely made sense here. I had been a little bit more on the, hey, it sounds like there's some uncertainty about who's going to be on the field in 3 wide receiver sets. It sounds like Hurst might have the track to be that outside wide receiver. With the neck injury stuff with Jalen McMillan, why take McMillan? Just take Hurst 30 picks later. But now some of the updated reporting is McMillan does look good. He's okay. How are you kind of parsing that Bucs wide receiver stuff?
I think with McMillan, he's been a pretty good player every time he's been out there on the field. Ended up playing a decent last year. Like Tez Johnson was a pretty decent player for them, and then when McMillan came back, Tez Johnson got iced, and McMillan got that role as well. I would be pretty shocked if Hurst had the inside track, at least to start the season, to play outside over McMillan. I certainly think through our receiver sets favor right now McMillan, Egbuka, and then Chris Godwin in the slot there. So. I think Hurst, the profile is exciting, especially as a deep ball threat and big play guy for for the Bucs there. But man, I would bet on Jalen McMillan being the wide receiver 3, day one. And again, he's played well enough in the NFL that I feel pretty solid about his talent. He has good rapport with Baker Mayfield as well. So I like that at this point in the draft.
Yeah, me too. And it now gives us even more options for how we want to play the Bucs, the Titans. We got tight ends available. We have more pass catchers available here. Here's the squad for us. Let me make sure that we are all refreshed here and ready to go. Okay. Yeah. So we're about to pick at 14-6. We got the 3-3-6-1. This is kind of an interesting spot here of, do you push up like a stacked tight end in Kaytron, or do we prioritize running back since we are a little light there? A Brian Robinson, a Sean Tucker, a Bigsby, a Spears. We have correlated options as well.
I would probably go running back here. We did have a tight end run, but I would go Tucker. Who's the top name there? Brian Robinson.
Yeah, Tucker.
I'd probably lean Tucker just with the correlation we have.
That's my thought.
Yeah, we do have B-Rob ranked well ahead, but I think kind of with these secondary running backs leaning into correlation, I do think makes sense when you have that option. Certainly, if we didn't have any Bucs there, I would think B-Rob is the pick just based on rank, though.
Yeah. Yep. And, B-Rob has felt like a really solid selection. I've been kind of confused all offseason why he isn't going where Pacheco is, or even slightly ahead of Pacheco based on, hey, really clear RB2. And I feel like Brian Robinson probably has a little bit more juice than Pacheco at this point. So yeah, he has been kind of a port in the storm for me when I'm behind at running back, but I'm with you as well. Like, we get the Baker slide. Let's keep loading up on these Bucs and really play them through their cheaper options. And there's, with all the Gainwell versus Bucky discourse, I mean, Tucker is a guy that could easily have a standalone role even without an injury. And then it's just a complete windmill smash if there are injury concerns.
Yeah. And that's the spot I was alluding to earlier. I do think as of right now, like I wouldn't be surprised if Sean Tucker is the primary goal line back in rushing situations for the Bucs going into the season. So kind of getting that aspect is I think pretty enticing.
Yep. So we do get to 4 running backs here: Kerrane, David Montgomery, Tony Pollard, Sean Tucker. Hopefully the people who thought we had the dustiest room ever think that we lived a little there with the Sean Tucker selection, having some fun, really letting our hair down in the later part of this draft, Mark.
Just getting wild on June 22nd, Pete. I mean, taking Sean Tucker, 20 spots ahead of ADP? That's insane.
That's right. Yeah. 160, 176, give us a little credit there. 14 picks. Okay. Interesting spot here again, in that there are some tight end options. There's Calvin Ridley with Ward. There is also Tank Bigsby, who I do think is kind of in that conversation with a Brian Robinson as far as a handcuff that is probably underpriced. What do you think is most important for this team right now?
I feel a little bit better about our backs than our tight ends. So, and there's like kind of a tight end cliff coming here if we don't get Otten. So I would probably lean Otten. I'd also be fine with Tank Bigsby. I'd probably push Ridley another round, just given where we're at wide receiver.
Yeah, I'm torn between Tank and Otten. You give me your preference there.
Yeah. Let's go Tank. Let's go Tank.
That's what I was going to say. Helm gives us still another option. Also, Otten's ADP is 187. Right. And with, like, if you look by ADP, Schultz, Barner give us some coverage there. We grabbed Tank 5 picks past ADP. And then that, I think, sets us up for, because I'm just like, Otten definitely makes sense on this team, but I'm not going to lose any sleep over losing Cade Otten here.
Greg Dulcich goes next pick, though, which doesn't make me feel great about Otten coming back, but we'll see. I certainly, since we got McMillan and Sean Tucker as well, I don't feel necessarily the need to press on Otten there, especially given the ADP, as you mentioned.
Yeah. This is an interesting question from Josh. Any thoughts on how it feels drafting early this year compared to previous years? Sure, we'll learn more about some backfield, but with a high percentage of running back by committee and subpar running back class, is waiting that valuable? I think it's pretty valuable this year, but I'm curious what you think, Mark.
Does he mean waiting and waiting
like
in terms
August
of
to draft?
Oh, to August.
Yeah.
I think I think in BBM, like, you just have to take a different approach maybe at this time of year and just kind of respect the uncertainty. I at this time of year, I lean more towards time box contest. I think I think just probably my edge there is probably bigger than in something like BBM, where, as you mentioned, there's gonna be a lot more information in August. And for me, I feel even especially more dialed in towards the end of August, just with all the training camps and all the time and effort we've put into rank. So, for me, I kind of limit my exposure to BBM stuff, and I'm mostly drafting the time box contest there. I think that's certainly an argument. But then, last year you have Sam Sherman drafted his winning team in early June, right? So I think, there's certainly winners to be out there at all times of the summer.
And to me, that's you just nailed it. Some of the reasons you need to draft BBM is because there are going to be a ton of other contests available. And if you are trying to max BBM, it's almost impossible. You can't backload every single draft and want to be a high volume drafter. You kind of have to spread it out. But if you said, like, I know I'm only drafting 20 BBMs this year and I already missed the opening week and the opening window, I'd be like, yeah, save them. And then just enjoy the time box contest now, where you don't have to worry about these CLV monsters and other, variables as far as people having access to teams that you don't.
100%. And I've been there where I needed to draft like 100 BBM teams in the last week, and it's not as fun as it sounds.
All right, so the Q and the solver suggestions are in lockstep. It's your preference. Gunnar Helm, Calvin Ridley, Cade Otton here. Gunnar Helm is the ADP faller.
I would probably take Otton over Helm, but
okay, let's do it.
I like our rank there, and I feel a little bit more confident about his role than Helm had an awesome target per route run last year with the Titans, but if it was the same offensive coordinator there, I would feel great, kind of like windmilling in the Gunnar Helm situation. But you have Brian Daboll coming over, and then he did sign and bring in Daniel Bellinger, so I'm just a little concerned over the playing time for Helm. But his target per route run as a rookie was awesome, and I certainly do see the appeal there for sure.
Yeah, and it's like it's one of those things where your ADP brain kicks in a little bit and you're like, oh man, Helm is a pretty nice value here. But again, trying to balance your ranking value and your ADP values is important. And I guess the one thing would have been, hey, we don't have anything else with Cam Ward. It's unlikely either Ridley or Helm come back, because we have McMillan, because we have Tucker, because Hurst is still an option potentially. Do you go in the other direction? The only other consideration would be, like, do you entertain a Singleton here? Do you entertain one of those year 2 Titans wide receivers, or is that just forcing it too much?
I think I would argue I feel better about the Bucs having a much better offense than the Titans. So I'd go ahead.
We are on the clock here. Singleton, Boutte, Terrence Ferguson. Anybody you like here?
I think Boutte's good. We can kind of finish up wide receiver with him and stack that up. Yeah.
Yeah, how have you been thinking about Boutte's? Another one of those that's often suggested by the solver late in drafts. I sometimes roll my eyes at it when I don't have Drake May, but on teams where I have Drake May, are we now working under the assumption, hey, even though there was some smoke there about a potential trade, at this point, it feels like he is going to be a Patriot?
I think so. And, again, we're in the 17th round. You don't need a whole lot of volume to project well in the 17th round of fantasy drafts. It certainly wasn't a great offseason for Boutte with them signing trading for AJ Brown and signing Romeo Doubs. I get that. Absolutely. But he is a 24-year-old that, had a not necessarily a breakout season last year, but showed some great rapport with Drake May. And again, just kind of leaning into the correlation there. If anything were to happen to Doubs, I think Kayshon Boutte would be out there on 3 wide receiver sets. But the secondary Patriots wide receivers are tough to project. You also have Matt Collins there, who coaches always love more than the fantasy community. It is kind of a crowded room there, but in best ball we get the luxury of you don't have to know when to start them every week. And in the 17th round, if you're getting a couple usable weeks from your wide receiver, I think that's totally fine.
Does this feel like a third tight end to you to close it down with just Laporta and Otton out of 3-5-7-2? You do have like Ferguson, Gesicki are best by ranking, or you could really dip into the gross stuff.
I do like Ferguson. I'd be good with him. Who's at running back as well? I'm between running back and...
It would be Singleton as part of the Ward thing. There's also P. Ryan, Justice Hill, Braylon Allen, Jordan James, Ty Johnson. It's
nothing
probably
shouting out to
Ferguson
me
or
there.
Singleton.
I'm fine with Ferguson. I'm not too into Singleton, but I do understand the correlation there.
I think tight end 3 looks like a slightly more, bigger weakness for us.
Yeah.
So I don't mind going to Ferg there.
That sounds good to me. Let's do that.
Yeah. How are you thinking about that? Obviously, last year we had a lot of the 3 tight end sets with the Rams. Now, hopefully looking at more condensed with Ferguson and Parkinson. Can you envision a breakout there for Ferg?
Yeah, I think Ferguson is more like, a bigger size wide receiver for them. His ADOT was insane last year. Through like more than half the season, he had like a 20-yard ADOT or something as a tight end, which is just outrageous. So I almost don't really view him as like the inline tight end bucket as like a Parkinson. There you have Davis Allen. Obviously, they drafted Max Clare as well. So I almost view Ferguson as like, a potential de facto wide receiver 3 for them. There's really not a whole lot going on at wide receiver out behind Puka and Devontae Adams. So, I certainly think Ferguson could be more of a outside lined up or in the slot kind of tight end for the Rams and make some big plays.
Beautiful. All right. This one is in the books. What a journey we went on with this one. Time stood still there in the middle of the second round. We had some interesting kind of fork in the road moments there with quarterback and positional decisions, but I really like how this one turned out. I would say other than not getting Goff to round out that double stack, I think this worked out pretty well.
Yeah. I love how this team landed. Maybe you could say Godwin over Sutton as well, since we ended up with Baker in that stack, but I do like how we landed with McMillan and Sean Tucker and Otten there as well. So, pretty happy with that one. I do like, I think now just letting it simmer a little bit as well. The Ferguson over a 6 running back room, I feel good with also.
Yeah, let's recap this in full for all of our audio listeners out there. A 3-5-7-3, Drake May, Baker Mayfield, and Cam Ward. We got those 5 running backs, pretty much values on all of our running back selections other than Tucker for correlation purposes. So it was Kerrane in the 3rd, David Montgomery in the 5th, Pollard, I believe, there in the 7th, and then Tucker and Bigsby late. Wide receivers, very solid. Amon-Ra, A.J. Brown, Luther Burden, Cortland Sutton, Wan'Dale Robinson, Jalen McMillan, and Kayshon Boutte. Some nice stacks there to round it out. Laporta, Otten, Ferguson. I'd say the only thing we didn't do is we didn't get the quintessential rookie wide receiver on this team.
I was going to say, I think the only flaw is we didn't get a rookie, which maybe against the rules, maybe I'll be banished for a week now. On the stream, not taking a rookie. And I think, without that and not taking Gunnar Helm, I think, we're getting some positive reviews in chat a little bit, but man, if we took Gunnar Helm, I think chat would have been all over this. Pretty happy with it.
The chat was going crazy. I will say, I do like when I'm making, I like correlating my tight ends with the quarterbacks regardless. But I do like the idea of the super cheap quarterback with their tight end because they just so often come along for the ride. When I think back historically to those offenses that really smashed late, it was like BBM3 when it was the Evan Ingram, Trevor Lawrence, Jags, and Christian Kirk. And it was like Evan Ingram, it comes out of nowhere. It was the CJ Stroud rookie year where Tank Dell was hitting, and Dalton Schultz also popped up from some spike weeks. So I love the idea of Helm of like, hey, if Cam Ward hits, Gunnar Helm is going to have some usable weeks. But for us, we were kind of just deciding straight up between Cade Otton and him, and both were correlated. And Otton, a way more known commodity than what you're kind of doing with Helm there.
I think so too. And yeah, like I alluded to earlier, I feel way better about the Bucs offense producing consistent, fantasy scores that we want in our lineup than the Titans. So yeah, a toss up. I don't necessarily think there's a super right and super wrong decision there between Helm and Otton. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out for us.
I think before Sam's going to join us here in a second, before he does, any other thoughts on, we were joking about the Cooper Kupp stuff. We mentioned the Kayshon Boutte. At what point do you start to say, okay, I trust our ranks. I trust our projections. I know these guys are probably the quote unquote safest bets at the end of the draft. At what point do you start saying like, okay, 30% Cooper Kupp or 35% Boutte? I don't feel comfortable with that stand relative to the probability of them being that much better than other 18th round picks. At what point do you start to IKB the ranks because of portfolio reasons?
For me, it certainly comes down to how confident I feel in that player. Take someone like Kupp, who probably has limited upside. He's more projecting well just because of base volume, I probably wouldn't get as high on. Probably similar with Boutte. I would maybe stop at 20-25% is probably where I'd be like most willing to land on aggressive stands towards the back end of drafts. There are certain, like last year I had an insane amount of Jalen Coker going in the last few rounds. I thought he was an unbelievable value, and he's, kind of a young ascending player. More of these vets that, are more like kind of volume driven with Ridley and Cooper Kupp. I probably am not as willing to get nearly as high on it in a best ball. And those, it certainly depends on your wide receiver room as well. Like, there's certain teams that I just don't want to click those guys on like this with the volume we have locked in with our top 5 guys. I would say I probably wouldn't take a Cooper Kupp necessarily, even if he was at the top of the suggestions.
Yeah. The other player we didn't get a chance to talk about a ton that I've struggled with a little bit is Wan'Dale Robinson. The thought being like, this guy's always earned targets. And at the beginning of free agency, it was like, okay, like he's going to do the same thing he did again. But the combination of Ridley returning, drafting Carnell Tate, who we all expect to start to command a high target share, I'm like, is the entire thesis of Wan'Dale Robinson, is that on shaky ground now? I know he can still earn targets even as the wide receiver 3, but if he is in that role, aren't we massively overpaying for that at 114? This is a guy who smashed as like a pick 160, 165. I'm like, did we anoint him too quickly? My gut says like Wan'Dale Robinson feels like a 140, 145 guy to me, and we're taking him at 115.
That's fair. I certainly think it probably depends on what you believe about his role last season and the way Brian Daboll deployed him. It was his first season with Jackson Dart too, so you can maybe make the comparisons of a young ascending quarterback, a little bit more athletic than what the Giants had previously. Wan'Dale Robinson's 8 out was 8.5 yards last year. He had never had a season above 6.2. We finally saw some big plays from Wan'Dale last year as well. 11.0 yards per reception for him, had never had a season above 10. So you can maybe say the regression monster is going to come for him and he's going to, turn back into a slot merchant. Or you can say, hey, Wan'Dale at, age 25, going to a new team with the same offensive coordinator, he's going to kind of keep up that more of a, not necessarily a field stretcher role, but have more big plays in his pocket, similar to kind of how we saw the breakout last season. So, that's something on like the efficiency side that we continue to debate with someone like Wan'Dale. You see it with other players as well. Does this one season kind of supersede what he did the first few years? Is that going to be his new role, or is he going to kind of, again, go back to that slot, low ADOTs, a volume merchant type of role?
Good stuff, Mark. Happy to draft with you. It's crazy. I mean, if we're starting to figure out what is the unique variable, is it me who makes these drafts so stressful and so chaotic, or could it be Adam Levitan, who's the agent of chaos, the bull in the china shop? And when we get, an agreeable, more chill ETR employee on the stream, things seem to work out pretty well, didn't they, Mark?
Peter, whenever you need someone to come in and calm things down, I'm your guy. So just let me know. Yeah. Let me know next time, Levitan goes on one of his little tirades, and I'll be sure to come in and settle things down a little bit with a Wan'Dale Robinson Cam Ward stack, just like it's
that's right. Yeah, I think I've been doing lots for So You Think You Can Tout. I've been doing lots of one-on-one interviews and stuff. I think I need to have a heart-to-heart with Levitan and really see, if he's right for this program going forward. But Mark, always a pleasure drafting with you. I'm sure we'll sync up with you on Off and On the Clock as well in the near future, as we've been kind of popping around and drafting different formats. Anything else you want people to check out? Obviously, we mentioned the forthcoming Establish the Edge podcast with you, Jack, and Gretch. What else should people be on the lookout for?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing on deck right now for us at ETR is the projection series going up with Gretch. That'll be on the Establish the Ed feed on podcast and YouTube. So be sure to check that out. Subscribe there. It's a different channel than the Establish the Run channel. So be sure to check out Establish the Edge there for me. And then, you can follow me on Twitter at Mark Dank. But was certainly a pleasure here drafting with you, Peter. I'm an avid watcher each week, so super fun to get to draft one with you as well.
All right, man. We will keep tabs on this team. We will be in touch. We're going to let Mark go and bring up Sam Sherman here for our third draft. We'll see you later, Mark. Welcome, Sam, back to the stage, fresh off of what I assume was quite the corporate meeting. How are you doing today, Sam?
Yeah, hell of a corporate meeting. Just finished up. but more excited to be here. Pete, did I catch that the Gretsch Leone podcast projection series is coming out soon? That's some exciting news.
Yes, it is coming out soon. The difference, though, is Leone. People were asking, is Leone okay? Leone is fine. We talked about this with Gretsch on After Dark. Leone's just like, I go so balls to the wall in August, in season. Like, now is my time to decompress. So he kind of stepped away from doing Best Ball Breakfast, doing those pods, all of that stuff, so he can be super refreshed for the start of the season. So Leone is alive and well. He won't be on the projections pod, but Mark and Jack are going to fill in for him with Gretsch.
Oh, nice. Awesome. Having been, on the inside of ETR for a little bit, saw how the sausage was made a little bit with the projections. And I'm sure with Jack and Mark, those guys are awesome. So the podcast, I'm sure, is in good hands. But yeah, that's always one of my favorite annual listens every year. So excited that those guys are kicking it off soon.
For sure. And I was just over the weekend, I got to listen to you and Pat do That's Fair. You guys were talking about some potential camp risers, and man, you got deep in your bag. You were teaching me names at the end of that show that I had never even heard of. Was it the Cincinnati tight end?
Panthers tight end, Mitchell Evans.
Panthers. Yes.
Yeah. Mitchell Evans. Yeah. I was honestly just trying to catch, there's not many things you can sneak by, Pat. I was trying to catch him off guard with a name he hasn't heard of. Also talked about Shadur Sanders on that podcast for some reason. We got really deep. If you want to hear about really gross 20th round picks on DraftKings, that's probably a good podcast for you.
There you go. What is your volume split been like as far as Underdog versus DraftKings? Are you about even, or where are you at right now?
I'm pretty much all Underdog. I mean, I got a lot of money in the account right now. I don't have to deposit.
You do? How did that happen? You get some site credits or what?
I got some site credits. Yeah. Some influencer site credits. No, I honestly, for me, I get the arguments of DraftKings is probably softer. I've just had more historic success in Underdog. I don't know why. I'll have to check into the numbers there, but
are you sure? Have you actually looked to see if you've had more success on Underdog or DraftKings? I feel like it could be close.
It could be close. I think I actually did. On DraftKings, there's a way to check your lifetime P&L on DraftKings. I checked it once and it was just I think it included best ball, sports betting, everything. And it was so heinous. I don't even want to say what those numbers were. So I'm pretty confident that Underdog's a little bit better.
I know, it's like when the solver always recommends their bankroll tracker for DraftKings for DFS. And I'm like, I will never acknowledge that feature exists. I don't really want to look at that year over year graph.
Yeah, no. And it doesn't even impact, tell you about the tax implications too, which makes things even worse. So anyways, yeah, let's, should we get into a draft here?
Yeah, we are in a draft. I tipped off the Discord first. There's
Nice.
still a few spots if you guys want to draft alongside us here. 5 more for this Best Ball Mania draft. This is my 57th Best Ball Mania team. What other are there any news and notes that are on the top of your mind, coming off the weekend, or specific spots you're thinking about a lot?
To be honest, not really. I feel like this is a pretty dead news time. Yeah, I've been busy too. I'm on a streak of 4 weddings in 5 weekends. So I've been traveling every week. I mean, it's been a blast, but been super busy with that and work. So yeah, not a ton. I'm sure as we get into some player situations, we can talk through it. Oh, by the way, did you end up pulling trigger on the World Cup tickets for tomorrow? You going to that?
Yeah, I'm going tomorrow. Yeah, so
nice.
It should be fun.
That's awesome. What's the game again?
England, Ghana, 4 p.m.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the English crowds descend into Boston yet. I'm sure. I bet tonight and tomorrow they're going to be pretty rowdy. I mean, there was the Scottish presence was very palpable in Boston for a while. I haven't noticed the Brits yet, but I'm sure we'll feel them.
Well, my buddy Mike's a Kerrane. He's going to the game with me, and he was coming up from New York today. And he said on his train there was a ton of English soccer fans. So maybe they're descending from all over right now.
Yeah, I'm sure they are. Nice.
So
it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, should be fun over there at Boston Stadium. We are drafting from the 105 here, Sam, which is typically which of the 3 wide receivers fall, or are you doing anything else more spicy at 1-5?
No, doing whatever receivers fall. I've been like, the only spicy thing I've been doing in the top 5 is I've been occasionally doing Puka over Chase out of the 4 spot there. Not like full fading Chase and getting whatever 2x the field on Puka, but I do think I want a bit of an overweight position on Puka. So I have been doing that. Otherwise, I've just been playing it by. I also was doing like Gibbs over Bijan every time, but now that that's flipped, that's kind of less relevant.
Okay, I was worried, Sam. The first draft with Mark, it froze on us for like 6 minutes in round 2, and then it hung on Willis's pick there at 1-2 for a second. But we are back and off to the races here. So yes, Puka here at 1-5, good for you.
Yep, let's lock him in.
All right.
I mean, yeah, Puka. I get. I mean, I don't really know how to price in the off-field stuff with Puka. I guess there's a little bit of uncertainty there, but he's just been in a tier of his own the past couple seasons in terms of yards per route run, per route efficiency. If he could just like have a season where he converted more touchdowns, like take some of the Devontae Adams red zone share and shift it over to Puka, he could have one of those like legendary wide receiver seasons that we haven't seen since like, Cooper Kupp back in the day. So he is my favorite wide receiver of these 3.
We had a crazy pick here. I know people are excited about Kenneth Walker, myself included, but not at 106. Kenneth Walker ahead of CMC, ahead of Jonathan Taylor. What do you think about that?
I did hear, I think Silva in his latest top 150 moved Ken Walker up to like 9 overall. So maybe this is someone drafting off of Evan Silva's top 150 here. But yeah, that is, I mean, I am really into Walker, but that's a crazy price. I haven't seen that once all summer.
We also get Derrick Henry pulled up to the 1-2 turn. Don't see that always. Barkley and Henry here. The only problem with it's like when you pick here right in front of the Kenneth Walker pull up in ahead of the Derrick Henry pull up is you don't actually get to enjoy any of the ADP fallers because it's basically balanced out by the time we pick again.
Yeah, now it's all going chalk. Yeah, so we're looking at what Drake London,
AJB or Nico. Who do you like?
I like London here. Haven't got a lot of him, and I think like offensive environment wise, I definitely get like the ceiling case for AJ Brown over Drake London, and I think like if we're talking about if this was like a managed half PPR team, I think I would go shoot for the upside and go AJ Brown here. But in best ball, we're like median floor matters a bit more. I think Drake London is just so locked into a massive target share. It's just like, is the Falcons offense going to be good enough for him to have enough spike weeks that matter? I think that's the question, but he's still my pick here above the AJ Brown, Nico types.
I know I was writing up a blurb for him in the Fantasy Life newsletter for the Fantasy Life draft guide. And I was like looking at round 2 and I'm like, Drake London is by far the most boring pick in round 2 where it's like, you just know what you're going to get. The quarterback situation is going to be the same or probably pretty similar with Tua. So many of these other players, the running backs are always kind of volatile as far as the touchdowns, whether it's going to be like, AJ Brown, Nico, Pickens, we all know have this nuclear upside in London. It's just like, yeah, it's Drake London. What more do you want?
Yeah, exactly. He's got to be the least talked about top 20 pick. Like we've talked deeply about all these guys, I feel like or I say as the fantasy community, You're
right.
Drake London never gets mentioned. Oh,
so
Jeremiah Love here would be fun.
Oh, he goes. Breece and ETN, Kerrane, Javonte, Garrett Wilson, Neighbors. What do you like?
I do Breece. I do Breece here.
Yeah. Let's grab Breece. ETR ranks are like a little bit lower on him, but I'm with you. I prefer Breece of these options here.
Yeah. I think it's interesting for sure. They're lower on him. I'm guessing it's just being much lower overall on like Jets touchdown projections. but I do expect. I mean, it does seem at this point like Kamara is sticking around. I've generally been on the opinion like that doesn't matter that much for ETN, but now, I mean, Saints social media was putting out stuff with Kamara. Like that would be a weird thing to do if they're planning to cut him or whatever. Saints don't actually have a lot of leverage. Like if they cut him, I think they don't actually save any money. So I think he's going to be around and he's going to steal some of the pass catching work, which again, I don't think it's like end of the world for ETN. I'm still drafting him, but that's like enough of a tiebreaker for me that I'm going Breece now over ETN.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that because if that does feel like one the market will want to bake in if we get more certain Kamara news that ETN does fall more to the 3-4 turn. And it's like, not that I want to be out on him, but if we do know an inevitable drop is happening, it is harder to stomach him at his current ADP.
Yeah. Yep.
Love would have been fun though there as the faller to pick 29, just because I rarely see him at that price.
Yeah. I think we got him our first best ball breakfast of the summer. We got him at like 30 or 31 because people were really panicking on the Cardinals draft selection. So, but yeah, I haven't seen him go that late in a while.
So we start with the two wide receivers, Puka and Drake London. London does fall a little bit past ADP. Breece falls a little bit past ADP. On the clock here, you're looking at, McLaurin, Loveland, Luther Burden. I'll put all these guys in the queue here. Swift also in the mix. JMO, do you have anyone that stands out to you here?
I think I would go Loveland here, actually. Go with the elite tight end. Yeah. I'm really high on Loveland this year. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I want to hear it on Loveland. I think we've been talking about him over in the FFPC context of, is he closer to Bowers and McBride, or is he closer to the Warren Fannin tier? It sounds like you more are buying kind of the elite tight end breakout for him.
Yeah, I'm more buying the elite tight end breakout for him for sure. I think when you look at him versus Burden versus Adunze, I don't think he's like the number one in the majority of scenarios, but I think he is like the most likely to be the number one out of those three. I think he, was a stronger prospect than Burden, was drafted a full round ahead of him. I think he was more proven than Burden last year, like in a full-time role. We really only saw Burden like play more than 50% of the snaps a couple times last year, whereas we saw it for Loveland like a full half of the season. And I think he's really unique at the tight end position that he can win routes like a wide receiver. He can win down the field. He can get those huge spike weeks as a result of that. And I think it's a really good stylistic fit with someone like Caleb Williams, who's looking to extend plays and go deep. So yeah, I think like awesome prospect. Saw everything I wanted to see from him last year, and I'm happy to chase him in the fourth round. I don't think the price is too expensive at that point.
Love it. On the clock here, we can grab Bucky around ADP. Judkins, Tootin also here, Lamar or DJ Moore if you want to go a different direction. What do you think?
Man, I don't love these running backs. I think I would go Bucky or Lamar. What do you think?
Let's do Bucky.
Okay. Just get a running back. Yeah.
I feel like I do like the price on Lamar. I think it's really fair, but there's also just so many times where I'm able to get him with Zay. And not to say I want the entire portfolio of Lamar to always be tethered to Zay, but I think otherwise in this spot, and it also opens us up for a Caleb with Loveland since we went that way. I think the running back feels a little bit better there, but it's close.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the Bucky, I am like on the record as being pretty scared about Bucky. I am trying to like do the smart thing where I was like very anti-Bucky when he was in the third round, early fourth, and now that he's slipped all the way to mid 5, I am probably just like more at market with him than fading him. But yeah, it's still a situation that scares me quite a bit, to be honest.
I feel like the Tootin stuff it like swings wildly every couple of days because initially with the foot stuff with C-Rod, he was inching into even the back end of round 4 and Bucky was firmly behind him. And this one, we do take Bucky over Tootin. Is the Tootin price just too rich for you here? I
honestly, I don't think so. I was a pretty big Tootin hater early in the offseason. I think I was kind of proved wrong by them letting ETN go and not making a huge investment in the running back position. I am also at market with Tootin. I don't have like a spicy take one way or the other there. It's a projection for him for sure, but like the Jaguars is a team I want to be betting on, and he clearly has the most well-rounded skill set of the three backs there. So I don't think he's overpriced. I think he is. I don't think he's also like a smash value. I'm just like, yeah, happy to take Tootin on my teams where it makes sense.
Right. That's where I'm at, where I think you could say, compared to previous years, like that entire cohort of round 5 guys feels overpriced, where we used to be able to get that profile. But in the context of all of the running back prices, he feels appropriately priced as far as, ordering these guys positionally.
Yeah, for sure.
Dude, Jaden Daniels here, if you want to do the naked quarterback, Metcalf, Pollard, other options here.
I think it's Jaydon for me. Yeah, I don't. Yeah. I've been taking a lot of Jaydon. I really don't mind. He's not a guy that I feel a need to force stacks with either. And there's also a good amount of back stacks with him. So,
and that was another kind of thought, thinking about the 2v2s there of Lamar, and I guess it would have been like what, Chuba or Ramondre, so it's like Bucky and Jaydon versus Lamar and Pollard, Lamar and Chuba, Lamar and Ramondre. Which side do you like better?
Yeah, I think I like what we got for sure. Because I do like Ramondre, but we'd be pulling him up quite a bit there. I feel like Chuba has been sliding. It's just, man, the problem with like Bucky is I feel like the fact that both Sean Tucker and Kenny Gainwell, I can see squeezing him. Also in an offense, like Baker looked pretty shaky last year. I'm still like, again, I'm still concerned about Bucky, but I can't be too upset about the price. Let's see. We got Chuba coming all the way around.
Chuba comes all the way around. You could do the Caleb thing, 7 picks past ADP with Loveland and shut it down at quarterback. Hurts is also here. Rico, Kraft. Caleb does go, so that actually makes it a little easier. Do you want to go naked Hurts, Chuba, a wide receiver?
I think we should go Chuba.
Yeah.
Again, it's not the most fun pick, but I think the wide receiver tier here is just like really flat. Yeah. I do like having 3 or 4 running backs through 8 or 9 rounds. So I think it makes sense.
It was a really interesting choice there, because I was going to say, hey, let's do Caleb here with Daniels, kind of shut it down. The drafter with a very similar team as us, in that they took Drake May in round 6 with AJ Brown, but they also had Luther Burden in the same way we had Colston Loveland. And so they went for the same double tap of like, I'll shut it down with May and Williams. I think the Caleb pick would have felt a lot cleaner than the Chuba one there for us. Yeah.
I haven't minded the like double. Yeah. I don't know if you call it double lead quarterback. I guess you would at this point. It's like 2 quarterbacks in the top 10. I haven't minded those builds just because I do feel like once you get to like Metcalf, QJ, Jaden Reed, and then even once you get to like Chuba, Blake Corum, like that tier running backs, like it does feel like fairly flat. And if I have a stack that lines up, I don't feel like I'm sacrificing that much. And it also does allow you to like save a roster spot and not needing a 3rd quarterback. So past years have been pretty anti like double QB, double onesie stuff early, but this year I've actually been kind of open to it.
Yeah. And especially in a spot there, I guess from a volume standpoint, Chuba, I think stands out a little bit. We do see RJ Harvey here go ahead of him. I guess I don't know if I have a huge difference between Chuba and Rico in this range, but it's just like you said, the wide receivers are so flat that I don't really know where else you go unless you're pulling up someone you feel really good about.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. The other thing I was trying to pull up, but failed for some reason right now. My browser's giving me trouble. Like, I think it was Hayden was making the point back on the Colston Loveland debate. If you look at like the yardage projections in like the pick'em lobby right here, we can make this pick and then talk about it actually.
Yeah. So I have
Let's
it by
see.
rank: Addison, Laporta, Corum, Myers, Michael
Yep.
Wilson, Dart. By ADP, Monunga, if you wanted to go more in on Chicago. Addison does go. Downs is here as well. What do you think?
Tough spot. I think I would go Corum here and double down on the Rams bet a little bit. I was liking Addison before he got picked, but yeah.
I think this makes sense. Like, we get the two high-end wide receivers, Puka and London. It gives us a lot of breathing room there. We all agree this wide receiver tier is flat. Let's grab another running back before it gets a little dicey. And then this is still a pretty intriguing wide receiver range by ADP: Worthy, Myers, Pearsall, Pittman, Golden.
Yeah.
We get one of those guys. I think we're happy with that 2v2.
Exactly. Yeah. And yeah, I think like the balancing of like Chuba and Corum as like, again, someone who we think is pretty safe from a projection standpoint to start the season in Hubbard, but maybe doesn't have the ceiling, versus Corum, who can get us some spike weeks. We saw that last year, even if Kerrane gets hurt, but also has like the mega contingent upside in scenarios where Kerrane goes down. I think it's like a pretty good pairing to put a running back room together. Let's see here. Yeah, most of those wide receivers fell. That's nice. I like Pearsall. Yeah. I know you mentioned him.
Pittman, Pearsall, Jacoby. Who's your favorite of these?
I think let's go with Pearsall.
Yeah. Let's do Pearsall here as our wide receiver 3 right at ADP. Thinking about quarterback stuff too, right? Stafford could be an option.
Yep.
We lost out on... Who did we lose out on? Oh, Purdy. Purdy had already gone, so we won't get that. But Stafford would make a decent amount of sense, and there's still plenty of back stacks available.
Yeah, we could do some team stacks with our running backs. Baker, I guess, could come back around. We can consider that. We could consider Bryce Young. I think we'll be fine at quarterback. Stafford there. Yeah, if I had more time, I guess maybe we should have debated Stafford there. I just felt like we kind of wanted to get some wide receiver depth with only having 2 through 8.
Yeah, I think that was the right move. Even though I feel good with those 2 up at the top, I do think there's a tier break once we get to like the Dobbs range here and getting someone like a Pearsall. I think not missing out on that window and not getting, too dangerous a wide receiver makes sense.
We might have boxed in the Devontae Adams drafter too. Doesn't matter. Okay, Stafford gets ripped off. I was gonna say, like, sometimes as the Puka drafter, you have the Devontae Adams drafter kind of like boxed out in the turn, right? Where like if you're in front of them, you can kind of dictate the Stafford price, but this guy just ripped in Stafford solo, so that's not gonna work out.
Sam, how do you feel reading a comment like this? Have a feeling that a lot of Sam's tweets are sarcasm.
That's like the ultimate like hand on shoulder meme right there. I feel like yeah, it's you might be catching on to something. Yeah, the Tootin stuff was actually serious at one point, I think, but I've capitulated, sadly.
Yeah, it's in different landscapes, again, the market getting more and more efficient makes it harder to have like super strong takes against where, groupthink is really taking hold.
Yeah. I've honestly felt like that on the shows I've been on this year. Okay, let's make this pick.
I do like Casey Concepcion here, Shakir, Baker Mayfield, Aaron Jones. Anyone else that jumps out to you?
Probably Concepcion. The Knicks price is tempting. Like if he comes all the way back around, I think I would pull trigger. But I think go ahead.
No, just again, like on a team like this, Stafford goes, so we're not debating the quarterback. Concepcion gives us a first round wide receiver talent in a thin wide receiver room, and now we really just need to think through quarterback stuff of like, we could have considered or we can consider Bucky with Baker if we want to go that route. We can always do the naked Malik Willis thing here or build out a back stack.
Yep. I think we should probably do a quarterback With this next pick, Willis and Baker would probably be the top two. Not that we can't like grab one later, but you always run the risk of just a quarterback run and getting boxed out. So I think Baker makes some sense. We could tack on Kaytron later. I take a ton of Malik Willis too. So do you have a strong lean between those two guys, given that we have Bucky on the team?
I think I kind of like, I just did it kind of with Dank, but I do like the backstack options with Baker, I think a little bit more than the Malik Willis stuff, but I can go either way here. What's your preference?
Let's do Baker. I have a ton of Malik Willis, so this will help me mix it up a little. Hopefully he figures out the shoulder issues from last year. That was clearly hampering him.
Yeah, I do agree though. Like going quarterback there felt like a must just to make sure we didn't get too dicey there. We do get Baker to slide. He had just slid in the draft I did with Dank. I don't know why today is everybody spooked on Baker Day, but again, like we need this offense to hum, for Bucky's success. And the Malik Willis stuff, obviously there's concerns there, but from a correlated standpoint, correlating around the Bucs feels a lot better than the Dolphins. Yeah.
I know. I do wonder with my Malik Willis teams if I need to get out of the habit of just like tacking on Dulcich or Chris Bell or whatever to all of them, because I wonder how many of my teams I'm just like, I feel like Malik Willis could basically get there by being like Tim Tebow 2.0 and like tanking the rest of the offense around him and still being like solid for fantasy. But I always want to tack on those cheap stacks, and I probably need to like just force myself to actually take him solo, because I think in a lot of worlds that is how he pays off, like without getting any pass catchers there along the way.
Yeah. Hey, I'm still really into the Dulcich Malik Willis stack. Like that is, if I had to power rank my top 10 stacks and you're just factoring everything, vibes, price, whatever, I'm just like Malik Willis and Dulcich is always fun to me.
That's a good one. I feel like I had like a lot of the backstack ones. I'll end up with a lot of like Shaheed, Darnold, a lot of like Geno, AD, Mitchell. That's my go-to if you're like so boxed out a quarterback. A lot of gross ones you can do late.
All right, I'm getting the queue ready by both rank and by ADP. Looking at the solver, it's honing in on a Jalen McMillan for us if we want to do that with Baker. It also likes Omar Cooper if we want another crack at a rookie in round one. We are on the clock. McMillan, Omar Cooper, third quarterback. What do you think?
I think let's do McMillan. I think he's kind of an interesting guy. He was, he flashed a bit as a rookie, even though his like per route metrics weren't off the charts. But it was still good to see a third round rookie get some level of production in year one. That's promising. And then last year in the limited snaps where he came back, I was pretty surprised. They like instantly reinstalled him as a focal point of the offense. I know, what's his name? Igbuka was banged up, but he was actually playing above Igbuka in some of those games and finished the season with 2.1 yards per route run. Again, on very limited routes. He only ran about 100 routes, so I wouldn't put too much weight into it. But I think he's someone interesting going into year three. It's still a bit uncertain. Can Godwin bounce back from the injury? How good is Igbuka after his rookie season? That was very up and down. So I think with Baker, it makes a lot of sense to. He's also a guy I never get because I'm always taking Omar Cooper and Travis Summer.
Yeah,
take him. So why not take him now?
So speaking of like third quarterback stuff, you could choose a Tua or Penix.
Yeah.
You could choose a Shadur or Watson. You mentioned the Shadur stuff. Just putting that in our back pocket. Stroud is also slipping past ADP here as well. Aronde Gadsden, Chig, other options in this range. SYTYCT, what do you like?
Let's go SYTYCT.
Yeah, and open up another quarterback out just in case.
Yeah. Because Stroud was a little past ADP. That was tempting. And maybe if Geno gets ripped off here, we'll regret it. But I also feel like with Jaydon and Baker, I am not like a third quarterback at all costs here. Like I would like one, but I'm okay if we don't get one.
the nice thing is too, is like you build out this team and it's not like you have to you let Geno go. And then if you're sitting in round 18 and you really like how you're feeling elsewhere, then you pick, one of Tua, Penix or Shadur.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I've been thinking about that. It's like I know we want to wait for information on the quarterbacks, but I have been taking some of those Tua, Shadur stabs in 18. Cause it's like, how much worse are they than taking, I don't know, Ted Hurst or Chris Brazell, or it's like the odds of a quarterback mattering versus some of these scratch off wide receivers. It's like, it seems fine.
Yeah. Frankie says one of Cooper and Sadiq is 50 picks too expensive. Don't know which one, but one, maybe both isn't returning value. I definitely think that's the safe bet, but I would also argue that's fully priced into their ADPs.
Yeah.
A round one tight end on the Colts last year was going what? Warren was going 50 picks earlier, then 149. Yep. Previous round one picks like the QJs of the world and whatever, like those guys were going at pick 80. So to me, it's already baked out. And if you do want to make a correlated bet on the Jets, like if you got one home run, let's say a Garrett Wilson level rookie year out of two picks, one at 143 and one at 149, wouldn't you take that bet every single time?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think this commenter is right in that I don't think they both pay off in a big way, but it's exactly what you said, Pete. It's so cheap. I think they both have to be some of my highest exposure players this year, just given the draft capital and where they're going.
Let's see here. Antonio Williams could be a stack for our guy Jaydon, Denzel Boston. If we want to keep gross team maxing, what do you like here?
Let's do Antonio Williams. I like that.
Yeah, we get him right at ADP stacked up.
Yep. I like that. I am. I don't know. We were talking about it earlier. Like this year, I feel like because things feel efficient this year, both from where the players are ranked within their positions and where their positions are going. I'm having a harder time coming around on massive stances on players. So again, Williams is not someone I have a huge stand on, but diversifying when we have Jaden Daniels. Ayuk, I mean, who knows? I guess it's kind of binary, right? If they sign Ayuk or not has a huge impact on his value, but that's up in there. So yeah, I like where
I think that's the war. And again, we're talking, if they do sign someone, Antonio Williams does probably drop 2 rounds from a 14th round pick to a 16th or 17th. It doesn't feel great, but it's not like you're looking at any of your teams being like, this team is dead because Antonio Williams lost 2.5 rounds of value.
Yeah, exactly. Should we just take Geno here is part of what I'm wondering. I know it's a bit of a reach. We could do
Geno. We could also do Cade Otton with that, but there's plenty of tight ends here. Yeah, what do you think?
I think I would go Geno. I think lock in the third quarterback. Flat enough here that I don't think we lose much. Yeah, Mendoza gets snapped off. So
you can also always do the 80 Mitchell, who continues to make noise at training camp, it sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I like 80 Mitchell. So structurally here, we're done at quarterback. We could be done at tight end, but we don't have to be. Running back, I probably would like at least one more. I know, I'm sure you've drafted with Pat enough to know that, on his teams, he would be done at 4 running backs here. Generally, that seems to be the direction the Sims are going. I think I'd like to take a stab on a upside swing at running back.
For sure. I think I'm with you on that as well. Even one of the running backs Pat said he makes an exception for after his, sim running back window closes is available and correlated on this team. Let me give the audio listeners a quick recap because it's been a while. 3-4-6-2, Jaden Daniels, Baker, and Geno Smith. We got those 4 running backs, Breece Hall, Bucky Irving, Chuba Hubbard, and Blake Corum. Wide receivers, Puka, Drake London, Ricky Pearsall, Casey Concepcion, Jalen McMillan, and Antonio Williams. And then the 2 tight ends, Loveland and Sadiq. Kind of the MO for teams we draft. Very balanced. Don't feel behind anywhere. And now it's probably a running back, a wide receiver, and a tight end at a 3-5-7 3.
Yeah.
But even then, you could go 3-6-2. You could go 3-5-8-2. Like all of those are in play.
Yep. Agreed.
Kate Otten is here
I like
if we
Otten.
want the stack. Yeah.
I like Otten if he lasts. Just, I think if Otten wasn't here, I think I would maybe be okay stopping at 2. Okay, Otten gets snapped off. Okay.
You want to do
Mitchell,
80 here?
Yeah, let's do 80 here, and then the running backs. I guess maybe just if you go to running back and start to pull up the guys that I would like here. Kamara. I guess Kamara. I probably should draft a little of here because I actually do think it's pretty locked and he's coming back. I actually do like MarShawn Lloyd. It would probably be Kaytron, Kamara, and MarShawn Lloyd is my top 3 out of this group.
Yeah.
And
what about weren't you? I'm starting to get a little Jaydon Blue pilled as well.
Yeah, I'm interested in Jaydon Blue. I think I am. He, to me, I think is still a little bit below those guys just because, like, he was a 5th round pick who did nothing last year, but he's like firmly on my watch list and like a guy I'm ready to get excited about. I think, yeah. Oh, he gets snapped off anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Willis getting Kamara in blue. So yeah, we have a 3-4-7-2, 2 more picks here. I think we could. What do you think about taking Kaytron here as the rookie, the correlated guy, and then figuring out what makes the most sense in round 18?
Yeah, let's do it. We're getting to, like, there's not a guy I definitively feel better about than him, and with the correlation, I think we do it.
Yeah, so we get Allen. So we have that 3-5-7-2. There are still a decent amount of speculative running back ads. The tight ends are down to like Gesicki and the pure dust tier. Wide receivers, you do have some of the ETR faves, Cup, Boutte, Pat Bryant, etc. Running back, from a correlation standpoint, there is the fat man Braylon Allen as well. Looking at week 17 stuff, nothing really with Jacksonville opposite Washington. Jets opposite Minnesota. I guess Claiborne could be intriguing there. And then we already have kind of our Rams Tampa Bay bring back as far as other considerations.
Yeah. I think I would stop at, I think I like stopping at 2 tight ends here and going for a running back scratch off, I think.
Yeah.
And for me, it's been Lloyd is the guy I take here. Braylon, we have Breece. I guess I don't love Braylon with Breece and just how much we already have on the Jets as well with SYTYCT. What were you going to say? Did you have another suggestion?
No, I do think with this running back room, I think it makes sense. I also think because we have, a Chuba, we have Breece. I think we can take a big swing here. So I would say I'm good with Lloyd, Allen, or Claiborne. Claiborne's the rookie and the bring back. Allen's the correlated piece. And then it sounds like Lloyd is just our favorite in a vacuum. So it's up to you.
Yep. ETR ranks. That's interesting. They have Claiborne pretty high in the ETR ranks. That's interesting. Malik Davis goes. I think I would still go Lloyd here. I think it's close, but if you're good with it, let's do Lloyd. I know we've taken him a little bit, but he's still my favorite pick in this range.
Yeah, I mean, like Lloyd in blue are 2 I've been thinking about a lot lately.
Me too.
Where it's just one of those things where we're so burned relative to what happened in previous years that we might not be thinking clearly about how clean the RB2 role could actually be for them.
I agree. And like, not to pick on Levitan, who I obviously think is really good at this stuff, but I was listening to an ETR pod and he's just like, Silva was trying to talk to him into MarShawn Lloyd. And he was like, man, if I hadn't already burned like the GDP of Sri Lanka on MarShawn Lloyd, maybe I could get back into him, but I've already like wasted so much money on him. And I totally like get that mindset. And there's like some truth in it, right? Like he's been so bad for 2 years. Like you should be hesitant to draft him again. But I do think there's a little bit of that bias at play here where he's a guy in the slappy community or whatever, and the plugged in community that we've been really high on multiple years in a row. And he's completely zeroed out. So there's just so much like aversion to taking him. But I really do think when you zoom out and look at it, like Josh Jacobs, aging running back that's been inefficient, has the suspension risk. And then Chris Brooks is the guy, like I still get comments of like, oh, Chris Brooks is the running back too. I don't think people realize like he really is more of a utility fullback. Like the coaches are even talking about, oh, we can line him up at tight end. Like he is not a guy that projects to get a significant workload if Jacobs misses time. So as long as Lloyd is healthy, I think he is kind of the clear number 2. So I've been into him.
And even then, like Jaydon Blue's enticing in that, like you get the running back behind an older, dusty veteran who wasn't very explosive last year. But with MarShawn Lloyd, you get some added off-field uncertainty equity.
Yeah, exactly.
As far as like, even though the most likely thing is nothing happens because nothing ever happens with these guys, there is still a sliver of like things go incredibly south because there's a video of Josh Jacobs that comes out, whatever. The commissioner's exempt list comes into play, yada, yada. All of a sudden, MarShawn Lloyd is rocketing up boards.
Yep. 100%. That is the final selling point, is that like, I think there is a chance you're going to have to pay a very uncomfortable price for this later in a way that some of these other scratch off guys like Claiborne is maybe another example. Like he could rise a little bit over the summer, but I don't think you're ever going to have to pay like a pick 130 price or whatever for Claiborne. Whereas I think that's in the realm of possibilities for Lloyd. So if you're drafting at this point, that is another argument to take him.
All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to recap this final team. And then we're also going to, Aaron sent over a little super chat to roast his team. So we will get to that. But here's what Sam and I did here. We got the 3-6-7-2, Jaden Daniels, Baker, and Geno. We got the 6 running backs, Breece Hall, Bucky, Chuba, Blake Corum, Kaytron Allen, MarShawn Lloyd. At wide receiver, we had Puka and London up top, waited until pick 101 to grab our third and Ricky Pearsall, then got Casey Concepcion. We got Jalen McMillan stacked up, Antonio Williams stacked up, Adonai Mitchell stacked up. So leaning into correlation down the stretch there. And then the 2 tight ends, Loveland, kind of our elite tight end at pick 44, in SYTYCT right there at 149. I'll grab the report here, but how do you think we did?
I like it. I think it's a structurally sound. I guess this is kind of like a hero wide receiver, I guess double hero wide receiver or whatever you want to call it team. Where like we're really reliant on Puka and London, but I think good reason to think we can be reliant on those 2 guys and then filled out the rest of the roster kind of accordingly. So I like it. Good correlation too with the week 17 Bucks Rams stack too, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, for sure. And then I love the big team bets here, right? Because we have Baker, Bucky, Jaylen. We have Jaydon, Kaytron Allen, and Antonio Williams. And then we have Geno, Breece, and SYTYCT. And I always love getting the running back pairings with the quarterbacks as well. Obviously, Bucky is being drafted as the starter, but and same with Breece there. But even the backup with Jaydon, I always love the backup running back with the quarterback there.
Yeah, I didn't realize we had that. Yeah, 3 running back quarterback stacks is fun. And yeah, the running back room is like a balance. Like Breece, I think, has a lot of upside. Bucky, we talked about him. And then like Chuba, a little bit more of a boring, like maybe late season decline type of guy. But then we got a couple fun like contingent guys to balance that out. So overall, I think it's a pretty balanced team.
All right, let's see here. Aaron wants the sauce. He was drafting from the 6th. Oh no, Aaron. Aaron, you were the guy that took Kenneth Walker. Oh boy, you are gonna get the sauce here. Let's recap his team, and then I'll let Sam kick us off. Lamar Jackson, Malik Willis, and Mendoza at quarterback. Kenneth Walker at pick 6, mind you. Kenny Gainwell, Woody Marks, Tank Bigsby, Jordan James, Malik Davis. Wide receivers, Zay Flowers, Garrett Wilson, Mekhi Lemon, QJ, Jordan Addison, Shaheed, and Judy. And then 2 tight ends, Bowers and Kittle. Give this man some flames, Sam.
Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to do, but you did manage to draft, I think, 4 running back 3s on their team. You know, Gainwell's obviously going to be behind Bucky, and then Sean Tucker's going to have the goal line work. Jordan James, you know, just got replaced by Kalen Black, and Malik Davis obviously is getting cucked by Jaydon Blue. So yeah, you got a lot of team running back 3s. I guess if you got multiple injuries to running backs, that could work out. And then at wide receiver, you just drafted a bunch of guys on teams that are not going to, you know, be concentrated. Garrett Wilson, they're going to spread the ball around a bunch. Mekhi Lemon, he might be the wide receiver 3 in Philadelphia. Quentin Johnston, I mean, what do I have to even say there? And then Rashid Shaheed, situational deep threat. Jerry Jeudy, he might even get cut. So yeah, you maybe have 1 starting wide receiver in Zay Flowers there. And then, man, quarterback 2 is tough. I mean, how many quarterbacks are you going to have to end the season there? Fernando Mendoza, he's probably behind Kirk Cousins all season. Malik Willis is getting benched. Lamar is going to have some mysterious stomach flu by week 12. That's going to sit him out for a couple weeks. So, yeah, just a disaster of a team. Sorry, Aaron.
Yeah, I would say to me, it's just like you can't take a running back in round 1 that you can get from that draft slot in round 2 a lot of times. Like you basically sacrificed a round 1 pick, and then you made a luxury pick in Brock Bowers again there. So I just think to come out of 2 rounds with 2 round 2 picks, it just makes it really tough. I love the Zay and Garrett Wilson picks at the 3-4 turn because you are giving yourself outs at really high-end wide receiver upside. But I think this running back room is going to be a massive issue because you overpaid for round 1, and then you have a couple receiving back profiles in Gainwell and Marks. You have some handcuff guys. I mean, this team, it's going to need Kenneth Walker to basically do what Jonathan Taylor did at the start of the season to basically have a chance, I think.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I was obviously harsh. I think, you know, I think genuinely I have the same takeaway as you. Is like this running back room, I think, is going to be really thin. You're really betting on Kenny Gainwell here. If you're right and he is the 1A in Tampa Bay, I could see this working out. Otherwise, I think you're just like hemorrhaging points at running back 2 and flex, because you're rarely getting running back points besides Ken Walker on this team. It's gonna be tough.
Yep. So I would be curious, Aaron, maybe you can let us know in the chat. I do appreciate the super chat, but let me know the thought on Walker at 6. I do understand if you really, really want him, he's not probably coming to 19.
Yeah.
You know, that's not really where he goes, but it's like, just wait for your drafts where you have a late round 1 pick, and then you can gobble up as much Kenneth Walker as you want in early round 2. I just think in the scheme of projected points, ranked, etc., you're sacrificing so much. Like, you can get away with this if you're drafting 1 or 2 teams all year. If you're going to have a portfolio, you're just hemorrhaging too much value to repeatedly do this. Yeah.
One thing on like the bull case for Kenneth Walker that I think is kind of interesting. If you go back to not last year, but the year before, I guess that was the who was the offensive coordinator the year before Kubiak? It was the guy from Washington. Man, I'm blanking on his name. Regardless, he had 1 year in the NFL and he went back to college, but they really used Kenneth Walker as a receiving back that season. In just 11 games, he had 53 targets and 46 receptions. That's like over 4 receptions per game back in 2024. And I could see a world where like we are underestimating Grubb. That's his name. Grubb was the offensive coordinator. Thanks, over in the chat. Anyways, I could see a world where we're underestimating Kenneth Walker's receiving in Kansas City this year. I mean, it is a team, you know, Rashee Rice, obviously there's that aspect to it, but outside of him, you have an aging Kelsey, kind of a deep threat in Worthy. Maybe they do, like that Seattle team in 2024, they do make an effort to like really feature Ken Walker in the screen game and out of the backfield. And I could kind of see that, like in Kansas City, we always have this like kind of schemed underneath target guy. It's been Rashee Rice the past couple of years. Before that, it actually was running back. It was Jerick McKinnon. I know like Walker to Jerick McKinnon isn't like a one-for-one mapping of their skill sets, but yeah, I was just thinking more about that 2024 season and the ceiling Walker did show as a receiver. I think that's what you have to believe if you're taking him at 6 overall here, that like they have big plans for him in the receiving game, and he isn't just an explosive rusher. He can get there kind of in both the rushing and receiving games.
Very nice. Yeah, when Aaron did weigh in here, he said he has 20% McCaffrey and an inordinate amount of middle round picks. Didn't feel like pulling up Genty or Saquon. To me, it'd be like, are you out on Amon-Ra, Lamb, Jefferson, JT? Like, I would, unless you're taking massive stands against those guys, I would just pull up someone there. He does mention he liked the idea of a Bowers Walker combo, but even then, I'd feel more comfortable pulling that move from the 12 hole and pulling him up there. Granted, you did get solid combos at 3-4, but I just think it's a dangerous game to say the market is that wrong on essentially what, a swath of 8 or 9 of the best players on the board.
Yeah. I do think it's interesting with like the Genty being pulled up. I had this thought the other day of like his ADP isn't that different from the other guys at the like 1-2 turn. I mean, he's a little bit ahead of Cook, Barkley, Hampton, those guys, but not like a ton. But he's the one who I always see pulled up to like 103, 104, 105. So I'm just kind of like curious. I guess he must like slide more than other guys too to like offset that. But maybe it's just the drafts I'm in. I never see someone do the like, oh, let me pull up Barkley to the 107. It seems to always be Genty that gets that treatment. So I do kind of like, I'm not a unique combos guy. I do kind of like get if you're someone who's into that, like maybe there's some merit in like pulling up a running back other than Genty to try to make it happen, because it seems like not a lot of people are doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it just goes down to how much you're drafting. I'm never going to push against going to get your guys
exactly.
a handful of drafts. Like trust me, we're getting excited about Walker. If you guys tune into our ship chasing minisodes, we actually just dropped our round 2 one. You'll get some really good Kenneth Walker conversation over there. So I'm hype on Kenneth Walker, just maybe not quite to that extreme. Sam, let people know what they can look for coming from you this week.
Yeah, I'll have That's Fair on Thursday with Pat on the Leg Up channel. That's at 5:30 Eastern. And then, yeah, that's all I got. Be back here next Monday, hoping we get some NFL news, but I'm not holding my breath, Pete. I think we got probably a month of deader time, but we will have these wide receiver moves at some point, so that'll be fun to talk through when they happen. The Diggs, Debo, Ayuk, maybe stuff happening over the next couple of weeks.
Yep. Sounds good. Sam, appreciate you joining as always. We always get some solid teams into the portfolio here. Make sure you guys are checking out That's Fair with Pat. Always love listening to that. Any comments on the bike placement? People had been wondering about that here before you head out.
Bike has not moved in 2 weeks. It probably won't until next time I see you, if I'm being honest, but I'll do my best to get out this week. If not, maybe I'll just like shift it over a little bit and tell you guys I went out. But yeah, been a bad biking season for me. Sorry to disappoint the viewers.
There you go. All right, Sam, we will let you go here. We'll get Pat Kerrane up on stage in a second, and we'll see you next Monday. Sam, there he goes. We'll get Pat joining us in a second. We're actually debating right now a decision in our FFPC main event. So our group chat is going crazy. So Pat will be here in a second, and I'm going to need to go to the bathroom as well. I am now 3 hours into Best Ball Breakfast and am going to need to go to the bathroom. I will say a few housekeeping things that I've mentioned at the top of the show. We are going to have the live premiere tonight of the So You Think You Can Tout debate episode. We had Jacob Sanderson as our mediator / judge. We had 8 of these contestants enter into a debate tournament. There are twists, there are turns, there are surprises. You get to see these guys debate a bunch of interesting fantasy football topics. and some silly ones as well. So that'll be at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. And then there is going to be a live stream on this channel immediately following the debut of that episode at 9 p.m. where we're going to need your guys' help in determining who stays and who goes in the world of So You Think You Can Tout. But without further ado, our guest is here, and I'm going to play the intro. And when I come back after playing this intro, I will not be here because I will be going to the bathroom, and Pat will be talking to you. Scuba Kerrane, Patty Millions, Peacock Pat Kerrane on the ones and twos.
Are you kidding me? Kadarius Toney?
98 yards to the fucking house against Carolina in week 10.
All right, let's talk about Harold Fannin, who we're deciding whether or not to take in a main event draft. You guys will never guess which side I'm on. I think we should take him. I think in tight end premium, the guy who had over 100 targets as a rookie is going 4 rounds after the first second-year tight end breakout candidate. Another 2 rounds after the other one is a pretty good pick. As Sean Siegel said, he scored the 3rd most points of any rookie tight end this century. So that's where I'm at. Pete thinks he's undraftable, was what he said. In tight end premium, he thinks Harold Fannin is undraftable and won't get on board with the pick.
First of all,
Jack,
dude, you got to be a YouTube member to get this kind of stuff. I have to worry about spoilers for So You Think You Can Tout. Now I have to worry about spoilers for the minisodes episodes, and you're just out here spoiling it. The Ship Chasers haven't even gotten our
we can't even have a debate on it because we're all of our schedules don't align. So I don't think we're getting a mini on this one. This is the mini, brother.
No,
say
man.
your piece.
You got to become a YouTube ship chasing member if you're gonna get this good stuff. But yes, we are underway in the FFPC main event. It is famously tight end premium, but we're having a lot of fun drafting this team. I also was talking to the chat because someone took Kenneth Walker at 106 in the BBM draft I just did. And I said, if you are interested in Kenneth Walker discourse, you should also tap into our round 2 mini that just posted. I think it was yesterday.
Yeah, I don't know if we could use more discourse, I would say, on that one.
Yes.
Discourse has been with 4 people and busy schedules, discourse is in tight supply. We're having some. Are we having enough?
Well,
maybe not.
It used to be, so Pat and I started this tradition years ago. I mean, probably 7, 8, 9 years ago at this point.
And probably 8 years ago, yeah.
It would occasionally be, finding time for the 2 of us to figure it out was pretty easy. And sometimes you would call in from vacation. I was at the beach one year calling in.
Yeah.
But we would just make it work. We're on the clock. You want to talk real quick. But now with both of us, Jacob and Davis's schedule, it's nearly impossible to triangulate when we're all available. So it results in a ton of private chats followed by litigating it after the fact on stream once we're actually able to sit down and talk.
Right. Also, messages from people in the league going, "Hey guys, are you gonna pick or what?"
Yes. If there's one thing we have done over the years, it is tilt FFPC boomers who have hopped in a slow main event draft and expect the slow draft to be drafted like a fast draft. They do not like when we burn the whole clock.
No.
All right. This is what we're gonna do though, Pat. We are gonna draft a not a main event team, a Best Ball Mania team. We are in the room and we got the 102 here. I'll get it pulled up on screen.
Nice.
All right, let's see here. Any thoughts? 102. I mean, just a run to the podium for Bijan kind of pick for you.
Yeah, and you pray Gibbs falls. I have 1 Gibbs BBM. And I'm now convinced subconsciously that I'll never get another share. That I'm just gonna finish 149 non-101s and 1 after, because you know what it was? It's when the guy asked if he was dead, and I told him he was dead if he didn't get Gibbs.
Yeah.
In our perfect draft, when I had Gibbs in my perfect draft, and then try reinstalling it. I think this was a bug that popped up, but if you just reinstall it, it should go away.
Okay. It also says player list will load once you start a draft. Should it? It hasn't. The draft hasn't started yet. Does it normally?
No,
start
it
right
should.
after?
It should. Yeah, just reinstall it. But yeah, Gibbs, yeah. Rohim says he has 21%. He has my Gibbs. That's my Gibbs that you have. You actually owe me cuts of those teams. If you win, I'm gonna contact you. But yeah, Bijan is a great 102.
Yeah,
I just don't want more Gibbs. It's hard to get them.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's got something we've been talking about. I mean, it's so much easier to kind of trust that your portfolio is going to balance out when you're doing hundreds of best ball drafts. It's a little more of a discussion for us in the high stakes portfolio where we might have 10 teams. It seems like a lot, but when you're used to having, that big of a sample size to smooth out your round one exposure, you do actually have some tough decisions.
Right. No, 100%. You can't just play the portfolio game.
You sure cannot. So yes, we are underway here with Pat. We got the sidekick up and running. We start 102 with Bijan Robinson. Thank you to everybody tuning in today. Thank you to Mark Dank for filling in for Adam Levitan. If you guys aren't subscribed to the channel, please do so. Here every Monday morning from now until the start of the season. Things always picking up here in July and August. But June 22nd, Pat, this is still for the hardcore people. Our redraft friends, of which I consider myself one of them, they haven't fully joined us in the best ball watershed.
No, they haven't. And this is like kind of vacation-y time for, like NFL media. This is downtime. Not for us, though. Not for us, the grinders, the best ball grinders out in the streets. But yeah, I mean, this is when we talked about, back in the day, there's like a lot more discussion about when you're drafting, the windows and kind of barbell drafting approach and early versus late. I think early doesn't end until like a month from now.
Yeah.
Like that's the funny thing about it. It's like May through the middle of July is early. And then it's like, boom, not early. So that's why you and I kind of always done more of like a smoother drafting approach just because of time constraints and streaming and stuff. But that's ultimately, I feel like that's fine because if you're drafting in the early part of July, you still don't have that much information, and it's still possible to build some super teams with guys that are going to rise multiple rounds later. Because really the big glut of information comes in once training camp kicks off.
Yeah, and I mean, we've been talking about it with how many fragile situations we have, I think specifically with quarterbacks and running backs, and obviously always rookie wide receivers, wide receiver 3, 4 spots. I mean, the market is going to be anxious to push guys up into areas of the draft board that don't feel good. Like I immediately think of like the Woody Marks tier break at running back. Like you could sell me on any 18th round pick moving up into that range based on really good news. There's like no resistance pushing up past Pacheco and Woody Marks. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like if someone is taking Woody Marks, then they're open to taking someone else.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. This is a placeholder selection for the idea of a running back. I like that.
Yeah. Like Woody Marks has some things in his profile. He's not a nothing. Yeah, let's go Love here.
Yeah, let's do Jeremiah Love to pair with Bijan. I think the wide receiver options here, whether it's Pickens, Rashi, Devonta Smith, I like just getting the running back more, I think.
I do too. And then you get one of these three guys, Pickens, Rashi, or McBride. McBride obviously now has a stacking element with the Cardinals, which isn't, maybe when we finish up, but the Cardinals exceed expectation almost regardless of who the quarterback is, because we're not going to stack it. But maybe you have some Minshew weeks and some Beck weeks.
Oh God, I knew they were going to do this to us. I knew
baby.
They were going to make me take Rashi
no naked Mahomes. This insulates you from naked Mahomes.
Exactly. That's the only reason I'm okay with it. It's the only way I'm okay with it. Trey McBride would have been interesting, but didn't we do like a Love McBride, or was that maybe with Sam? I know I've done.
We did a Bowers McBride the other
Oh
week.
Yeah. So we start Robinson, Jeremiah Love at pick 23. The one hole grabs Pickens and Devonta Smith, and we grab Rashi Rice there at 3-2. No, Brady says no Rice, P. I mean, I am down on Rice relative to
he's out of jail, right?
He's out of jail. In fact, he sprinted out of jail. But no, most of my disdain is naked Mahomes. I don't want any more naked Mahomes, but correlated Chiefs pieces, I am on board with.
I would like to issue an apology because I did promo this episode last week on That's Fair by saying, tune in to see Sam Sherman, and then I will be on to draft naked Mahomes with Pete. So I didn't live up to my word there.
Well, this is where now, because look, we look at the Mahomes ADP. It is ADP 90. We pick at 95. So we basically dare the room. We say, you either give us Mahomes at a slight value stacked up with his wide receiver 1, or you fall on the sword of naked Mahomes, because then we will take Xavier Worthy after it, and we will ensure that someone takes Travis Kelce, and you are stuck with that problem.
You seem to be daring the room more than I am. I'm not really daring the room. I'd just like to have Mahomes fall back to us in the 8th round.
Didn't you once famously write an article on Leg Up, which was, I dare you to snipe me, I'll just build out another stack?
Yeah, but I like this stack too much.
Yes.
Snipe me on another stack.
Yeah. Let's see here. Maurice in the chat says, sup, fellas, will the crew draft live in Vegas this year? Just asking because I facilitated one of your drafts one year. We're going to have our main ship chasing meetup in Austin, Texas at end of July. We've kind of moved it up just because the beginning of the season is so chaotic for us. That said, I mean, Pat lives a hop and a skip away from Vegas. And I did hear you, were you on one pod saying you might want to get out there just to look at the FFPC draft boards? I don't know how tongue in cheek that was.
It was tongue in cheek, unfortunately. Yeah, I'm not going to make it out this year, but it's always a good time.
Dude, take the kiddo, just hop on the jet, like just do like you go out in the morning and you leave in the evening and you're just walking around, take a few photos of the draft boards and then hop back on and head home.
I could do that. I think I don't think I've ever seen a baby at the FFPC. I could do the Zach Galifianakis little baby carrier.
That's right. I know. I was thinking about that the other day with April, of like, because I wanted to go on Friday in the afternoon to watch the USA Australia, and like it's so funny how in some environments, right, like a brewery is now like everyone is conditioned, dogs, babies at a brewery, whatever, like don't bat an eye. But if you went to like a proper sports pub with like a toddler, that would feel weird, even though it's the same thing for all intents and purposes, but the actual environment feels drastically different with which to have a child.
Well, like the sports bar down the street, they don't serve food. So like they don't allow the kid, you can't even bring, they can bring the dog, but you can't bring the baby. And I think that's like a, kind of a protecting the vibes. Like, we're going to get rowdy in here. Don't bring your children.
Yes. Okay, here we go. 411, we have Robinson, Love, Rice by ADP. Loveland comes off the board. We're looking at Waddle, Adams, J-Mo here.
I love Waddle here.
Yep. I just wrote him
Young,
up in the
productive
Fantasy Life
receiver
newsletter.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, to me, he's this year's George Pickens and the guy we're going to look back on at the 4-5 turn and be like, why weren't we taking him earlier again?
I completely agree.
Adams goes, as does Montgomery. So then we're right into this running back tier. Bucky, Tootin, Judkins. I'm good with either of those.
Yeah, to me, it's clearly running back. Tootin is a guy I sometimes IKB to just to get my Kerrane exposure a little higher.
I think I just did a Bucky team with Sam. We didn't have access to Tootin, so let's go Tootin here.
Yeah, I'm irresponsibly high on Tootin. So that's where he goes, and that's once it's irresponsible, it goes a little into the IKB territory. But I mean, going running back there, I think was clearly the move with Adams off the board, and we have the 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers. You potentially get like Lemon back in round 6, or we might go quarterback, but we'll see.
Some updates on the bringing your child to a brewery. Joey says, my friends brought their kids to the brewery with us recently. One of them threw a rock off the vinyl siding outside. Yes. That is a risk. April is in a puzzle phase right now. She really enjoys puzzles, and that has been a godsend for stuff like the brewery. We just bring
That's
a couple
amazing.
of the puzzles, and that'll buy us like a good 30 to 45 minutes of uninterrupted puzzle and chill time.
Yeah, Vivian's in like, because she's just over 2 in a few months, and so it's like a lot of like this, that I want to hold that. I want to hold this,
Yeah.
So you're kind of like, as long as you're just like locked in and you're kind of like just following along and like on the ride, she would be real happy and stuff. But it's not like we can give her something and like go back into adult space for even 10 minutes, It's it's a lot of me. We have a little slide, like a little plastic for a toddler. It's a slide like for toddlers that I have gone down a lot. It's like we take turns,
The like classic, like plastic blue and red one, like the Fisher Price.
I wish it was that, because that'd be easier. It's like stairs into like a little like kind of like castle thing with a wheel. So there's like I have to like duck under and then duck under again to get in the slide.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of, I've actually have like a technique where it's like easier on my back.
Dude,
figure out how to do it.
That resonates with me so much, because like I was just yesterday doing this thing where I had my like legs spread out and April was like running and like diving, like using my legs as a tunnel. And then she goes, now it's your turn to do it to me. And she made me army crawl through her little legs trying to go through. I was like, April, this only works in one direction. But yeah.
There's a little circle, like a little cutout on the little, structure. And so she will go through, because she's a little 2-year-old, so she'll go through that no problem. Then she's like, Dada go through circle. I'm like, Dada's not going through that circle.
There's no way. There's no way. All right, Pat, we got our 3 running backs, Bijan, Jeremiah Love, Tootin. We got our 2 wide receivers, Rice and Waddle. Naked Drake May, Mekhi Lemon, DK Metcalf, Pollard, Warren. Who do you like?
I mean, the Sims you got to trust the Sims. I've said this. I've never IQB'd once in my life. I think the Sims know best here.
I wasn't going to allow it, but I did put Drake May on the thumbnail with Pat and Sam. And so it was foretold that Drake May was going to be on this team. There you go. All right. Mekhi Lemon does go in between us, as does Jaylen Warren. So we are looking at some running backs here. Pollard, Chuba, Metcalf. We could also do Ramondre if we want to go correlated with that 4th running back.
I think Ramondre's fine. I think Pollard's been kind of someone we've been trying to get more of recently. So I actually probably would go him over Ramondre, but I'm fine either way.
I'm good with Pollard. Have been taking him a decent bit as well. I feel like there's been a ton of Ramondre discourse of late. I see a lot of like, which I get, that, Henderson is overpriced. Ramondre's the way to play that backfield. I guess, do you envision any scenarios where they're both overpriced and they both kind of hurt each other's, like true upside or value scenarios?
Yes. I think they both could be overpriced, because Henderson is priced at a level where he is probably going to have a below average advance rate. Like I think, right, Henderson in the 6th would have a pretty good advance rate, but in the 5th, especially that 4 or 5 turn, I think he could be a drag on rosters. And you're betting on him to break out over the course of the season, potentially turn some big weeks. Like he could be a playoff hammer type guy for sure. But if he has a bad enough advance rate and then doesn't like smash the playoffs, he could end up just being a bad pick. And then Ramondre could be a guy who tails off at the end of the season and doesn't have an awesome advance rate. So it just ends up being like someone that you were better off spending the pick on somewhere else. So at these prices, I mean, 4 or 5 turns, 6, 7 turn, it's not clear to me that either one, has to be a hit. They could both be overpriced.
Right, because it really boils down to, what do you think is more likely, that you can sneak a Trevion Henderson team into the sprint because he is going to likely have a lower advance rate? Or do you think it's more likely that your fast start Ramondre team holds on in the same way he kind of held on last year, other than his injury stuff, and is capable of giving you a 20-point week, weeks 15 through 17? It's like neither of those scenarios make me feel great.
No, and I want to hear about Ramondre. I want Ramondre hype. I want August drafters coming in and being like, why are we taking the Patriots starting running back after the Patriots backup running back? Because what I want here is cheaper Henderson. I think cheaper Henderson is like a great play, like 6th round Henderson at the end of or past this kind of bigger running back tier, like post Jadarian Price, Travion Henderson is a good pick. You know, post Carnell Tate, kind of like, if it's like, okay, am I deciding between Lemon and Henderson? I'm like, yeah, I think Henderson's a pretty good pick there. So that's the discount I'm hoping materializes. We'll see. I think preseason snaps could help us. Like, I think Ramondre probably is the more traditional starter right now. It's just that usually that gets overpriced and we can bet against it and bet on the upside. Speaking of bet on the upside, Josh Downs just goes, which is a bit of a bummer.
Yeah.
So look at this. Worthy right now might be ahead of Mahomes. Mahomes flips him.
No, dude, but let's talk this through because you are begging the
Does he have a quarterback?
He doesn't.
If you want to try to push Mahomes around, I'm good with Worthy because we, the wide receiver 3, like we really want Worthy Mahomes on this turn.
Yes.
Like,
and
both. So
we do have
I'm okay pushing.
All right. So this is the inverse of naked Mahomes. It's the phantom Mahomes that I'm pushing for, the Rice and Worthy here.
Well, I mean, we have quarterback cover. He doesn't have a quarterback, but we have cover by ADP, and we have the Mahomes.
He goes
stuff.
dart.
So he goes dart.
Beautiful. He's gonna make us sweat this, huh? Okay, he goes Laporta.
Oh,
Bang,
yeah.
dude. This is fine. If all of our naked Mahomes misadventures were all for this moment where we got the Mahomes double stack with Worthy and Rice, I'm finally on board, Pat.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
There we go.
And Drake May's on the squad.
Oh yeah, who could forget? Is this like your dream version is this your true dream version of a best ball team here, Pat?
It's pretty close. I like this team. I think I think like let's say my dream version that I'm hoping to get later might be like a Travion Henderson falling where we take May and then we push May around and May comes back. Like that's kind of, again, to wrap up that point, that's like what I'm dreaming of that.
So like
maybe it never happens. But man.
But in hindsight, like would you look at a Hendo at 50 instead of Tootin, knowing you could get the Hendo May?
Like compared to so Tootin is, you have to like project forward that Tootin's going to take over this backfield, but it's a really high upside backfield. I think it's in some ways higher upside than the Patriots backfield because like Liam Cohen has been awesome at designing run. I mean, Liam Cohen was the Bucky Irving rookie year. He's been really like, this is a guy whose run games I want to be invested in. Last year it was a little bit split. And this year it could be a little bit split again. But I think if you're getting Tootin as ETN last year, that's a win, right? So you have a path to him being like a nice small win at ADP if he's ahead of Rodriguez. I think you also have a path to him being like a big win if he's actually a more kind of like complete back than ETN, more of like the speed back. So, I mean, the Tootin is functionally a speed back, except he was like basically a power back last year. So the criticisms of his rookie season are like he wasn't speed back enough, but that's more of his college profile and his 40 time and everything backs that up. So I just think that Tootin offers that potential for like from week one being like a mega hit right away. And so you're not making any kind of sacrifices around advance rate. You're just hitting the ground running in a way that's harder for me to see. With Henderson right now, that could change. All right.
I need the triple. I need it.
Well, we could also get the single. So, I mean, we want to think about who he might take, but he already, I don't know. I'm good with Kelsey.
You mean with Romeo Dobbs?
Yeah, I think Dobbs would be nice here too. It's another turn where I want to get both, but I don't know that.
He's got a 1-3-4-1. Pickens, Devonta, Adams, Lemon strikes me. He could be going back to a run. And it's just like, I do. Yeah, he goes
So he goes
Robinson,
Wandale.
so we should be good. He's Dobbs slips past ADP. I remember talking about Dobbs, and let's grab him here. He obviously makes sense.
We got both again,
I remember
which is great.
Pre-certainty of AJ Brown there. I want to say we had a conversation where it's just like this price is too expensive. It's not baking in the AJ Brown addition enough. It seems like that's maybe changed for you. I know his price has come down a little bit as well, but
it's
how
come
are you
down a
still
little
thinking about
bit.
Dobbs?
I think with May, stacked with May, like he is a good pick here. You saw Wandale actually flipped him, and we have Pollard, so we've got that. Like the Sims are pretty close between Wandale and Dobbs, given the Pollard Titans investment as well, even with the Drake May stack. So it's not like he's popping as an incredible pick at price, but we also had, like, since the AJ Brown stuff, we've also had the Kayshon Boutte stuff, which just feels super bearish for Boutte, and to the extent that, like, if he's not there, I wouldn't be surprised at all. And they've clearly signaled, like, if it feels like we're moving on from Kayshon Boutte, that's because we are, you know. And Romeo Dobbs got paid a bunch, and I think, like, you can't pay someone to be good, but you can pay someone to be a full-time outside wide receiver for you. And that is what the Patriots did with Romeo Dobbs. $39 million guaranteed, $68 million overall. They can't really get out of the contract till 2028. So, like, he is, for the next 2 years, the idea is Romeo Dobbs is going to help us have a professional, solid outside wide receiver play. In both spots now, AJ Brown and Dobbs. So you could also see this team move more to 12 with, you know, Raritan and Hunter Henry a little bit. So, like, having that outside wide receiver role is pretty big. They obviously just, like, they move on from Diggs unceremoniously, you know, number one target gone, deep threat connection guy with Boutte, signaling that they're moving on from that. And I think they're basically saying, like, last year's success was driven by Drake May, not these wide receivers. If anything, maybe these wide receivers are holding him back a little bit. So let's upgrade those guys. And so I think with Dobbs, like, you're mostly paying for routes, but you're paying for routes in a good offense, in a passing game we've already invested in with May. And it's not like he, like, stinks. He's just not especially exciting. So
yeah,
he is the exact type of wide receiver as your wide receiver 4 stacked with your quarterback that I do think makes a lot of sense in best ball. In redraft, you know, it's harder to see him being like this big breakout guy with AJ Brown there, but I think he helps best ball teams in this construction, like, pretty clearly.
Yeah. We have a pick coming up at the end of the 12th round. We do, to catch people up, we got these nice New England and KC stacks cooking here. Drake May, Patrick Mahomes. Let's make this pick here first. Sidekick like Spears, Trey Tucker, Daniel Jones, Brian Robinson, Jawan Jennings. I'm good with Spears here and getting a second
I'm good with Spears.
Tennessee back.
Yeah. Get both the bell cows.
All right, let's do it.
Kind of fun.
Yeah, both the bell cows per Robert Saleh. We could talk through that in a second. And we do also get vaulted up here Hunter Henry as part of the double stack for Drake May, which obviously makes sense as well.
Yeah. Hunter Henry's awesome here.
Yes. So I think the Hunter Henry makes a ton of sense. I mean, the wide receiver tier, I understand why it's not suggesting anything. I mean, by ADP, you're looking at McMillan, Jawan Jennings, Jalen Naylor, Trey Tucker. All these guys feel so similar to me relative to the wide receivers going 20 picks after them. Just get your next running back here, get your correlated tight end. Let me recap the team since we have gone a little time without it. May and Mahomes, Bijan, Jeremiah Love, Tootin, Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears. Wide receivers, Rashee Rice, Jalen Waddle, Xavier Worthy, Romeo Dobbs, and then Travis Kelce, Hunter Henry. I think the most interesting thing is the running backs being suggested was Spears with Pollard and Brian Robinson with Bijan Robinson. How have the Sims been making you rethink how you view, you know, handcuff or running backs from the same backfield?
I think we do see some guys where you bet on two teams from the same backfield especially more in like the Pollard Spears range. And then I think with the construction of like a hyper fragile team, where you're not going to have like a ton of running backs, that when you do take those guys like a Spears and a Pollard, you lock down a lot of running back points, like within, assuming that, I mean, it's not a certainty because the Titans could just like absolutely suck. And then you don't have that many running back points, but you kind of get this safety of like, I put 2 picks into this one backfield, and now I'm like, I've made a very concrete bet on the Titans backfield. And so I think it helps you then just be done at running back. So for this type of build, I don't mind it at all. It's more like when it's a true handcuff, I tend to see it less. I saw like I had a Walker team, Kenneth Walker, and Emmett Johnson fell like really far. And I was like, he wasn't showing up at all. I was like, this would be kind of interesting. But I'm like, yeah, with Walker, like he's a 2nd round pick. Like I invested so much more. And then when I think through it, I'm like, I am to take him in the 2nd round. I'm really hoping he catches passes at the rate he did like 2 years ago for the Seahawks. And Emmett Johnson's sort of a direct bet against that. And so, I didn't end up taking both backs there, because I think in certain cases you're really much more betting on like a guy to do the thing that the other guy would hamper him, know. But that's not really true with Pollard, who we took in the 7th round. Like he's more of like helping us fill in running back weeks, which the combination of Pollard and Spears can definitely do.
And now we're in this spot where a lot of the wide receivers, even like Debo is being suggested before, he's still available here. Algier goes. So Debo is good here if we want to get our 5th
I'm good
wide
with Debo
receiver.
here, yeah.
Yep. Drafter behind us at a 3-4-5-1. So Calvin Ridley could potentially be another Titan for us to add here. There's also the rookie, Jeremy Bernard and Antonio Williams.
Yeah, so I did do some due diligence. I went to Debo's Instagram and saw like what he's posting. It's a lot of him running, cutting, lifting, talking about how motivated he is. We're not in Will Fuller territory. I just want public service announcement there.
Sidekick does prefer Ridley. I'm also good with Antonio Williams or Jeremy as far as week 17 bringbacks opposite.
If you want to go the rookie, to me it would be Bernard. Ridley I'm good with is kind of a continued bet on the Titans. So
let's mix in a rookie here, and we'll see if Ridley's ADP is 184. We're picking at 170. There is a chance still that the room might give us both.
Cool.
All right, so we grab Jeremy there. We go Debo and Jeremy. Nick called it minus 100,000 odds there. Debo still strikes me as a solid pick. I wonder how long we're going to have to wait for some of these free agent destinations.
Yeah, and the Raiders, apparently there was some report I saw in Roto World where they're like not interested in Diggs because they're really like higher on their wide receiver room than people think. But there was also a report that Jack Besh is like just straight up bad and can't play from OTAs, which we kind of know already. But I don't know. It seems like maybe at a certain point they would come off of that. And of course it doesn't have to be the Raiders, but Debo and Diggs, I think, are like interested in playing football and weren't so bad last year that they wouldn't be able to sign on somewhere. So I expect both guys to sign, probably like in about a month.
Yeah. And I think the CLV seems pretty obvious with him, with Diggs. I think obviously I'm starting to hear more people talk about potentially Keenan to the Chargers with Ladd now dealing with this hamstring injury.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine if we have to deal with that again?
That would not be fun. Because Keenan is he's just like a limiting factor,
He's a vampire.
He's a vampire. Yeah, he just sucks value out of the offense. Yeah.
Dreaming of Sundays just got here. Assume we got naked Mahomes. No, my friend. Not only did we get Patrick Mahomes, but it's with Rice. And it's not just with Rice. It's with Rice and Worthy. And it's not just Rice and Worthy. Rice, Worthy, and Kelsey. Pat, I'm feeling frisky. I might even be down for some Tyquan Thornton. I'm just going to say it right now.
Okay. Man, we got him, guys. We got him.
Speaking of got him.
June 22nd. Pete's on board.
We do get Calvin Ridley to come back. So
Let's
I think
go.
that worked out really nicely there.
Play the room a little bit.
All right. So we get Jeremy and Calvin Ridley. So we're up to a 2-5-7-2. Sidekick likes the idea of a third tight end here, which certainly makes sense with our first coming at 119, probably done at running back. I also wouldn't mind. Yeah, I think I could go either way here if you wanted to prioritize a guy like Wicks who wouldn't come back and then knowing maybe a Freiermuth or Gesicki, or we just lock up the Tennessee stuff opposite Freiermuth.
I think we do Freiermuth. Yeah. We get
so now we have
a
game
Steeler.
stack
We have Bernard. Yeah, we've got
Yeah.
a game stack. Yeah, we've got a whole Titans Steelers game stack. Which, if you're gonna bet on the Titans, that is a more fun way to do it, right? Where you're like, hey, you're betting on a couple things. You'd love for them to have a great season, put up a lot of points relative to their APs. But failing that, you're like, hey, what if I get to week 16 or week 17 for this matchup, and then they go crazy. It's like the Titans are actually not a good advance rate team, but in week 17, when I need to score the most points, take this baby down, the Steelers and the Titans have a little shootout. Maybe Jeffrey Simmons misses some time. Rodgers is not concerned. Rodgers is just like he's dealing. He's in his retirement tour now. He's got 2 games left in his entire career. He's just chucking it out there. Freiermuth catches 3 touchdowns. What do you say?
I'm in. No, I love the little secondary stacks there with all the cheap Tennessee and Pittsburgh pieces. So heading into our 18th round pick, May and Mahomes, solid there. Bijan, Love, Tootin, Pollard, Spears, solid there. Rice, Waddle, Worthy, Dobbs, Debo, Jeremy, Ridley. We're a little weaker at wide receiver, but then you catch up quickly. Get some nice correlation there as well. Kelsey, Henry, Freiermuth correlation, very solid 3 tight ends there. I mean, this team, it has basically all of the ingredients that I would want in a BBM team.
Yeah, I love this team. We did the IKB with Tootin, which is just my personal love of Bashal Tootin there. And then we played the room a couple times. So we got Ridley to come back to us. And then we read that Dart was probably more likely the naked quarterback selection for the guy out of the one hole. And we're able to get Worthy and Mahomes on that turn, which is really, really big. And then we just took Kelsey at the top of the sidekick the following turn, and then still got Dobbs to come back to us, who was also top. So it's been a fun process to get here, and I love this team, dude.
It is very nice. The sidekick for this final pick, it's liking a 8th wide receiver or a 4th tight end. Is this a new one in your guys' range of outcomes? Jacoby Lane. I don't know if I've seen him pop up.
Jacoby Lane is someone that I am trying not to get overly confident against, basically. Like, I think Jacoby Lane is,
gotcha.
Against, yeah. Like, Surratt is my preferred way to play the Ravens rookie wide receiver. But Jacoby Lane, they literally drafted first.
Yeah.
And they're talking about playing more 11, and they don't seem that into Bateman. Tez Walker is kind of in the mix for them right now. But by the end of the season, it might be Lane. Like, the number 2 wide receiver in Baltimore could easily be a rookie, and it could easily be the rookie they drafted ahead of Elijah Surratt. So I'm trying to I'm taking more Surratt, but I'm trying not to just put blinders on and be like, it's only Surratt. It can only be Surratt, because I like his profile a little bit more. But Lane's profile is kind of interesting too. He was an early declare. He was somewhat productive. Like, he has elements in his profile where you could see him actually being a hit as a 3rd round pick pretty quickly. So that's more one because we've talked about this over the years where we're like, there's 2 guys that are pretty close, and then you end up with 15% one and like 1% the other. And to me, it's more like I want like maybe like 10% Surratt and like 6% Lane, something like that feels like the correct exposures. So Lane is someone I'm taking a little bit more of, and will pop up in the final rounds for you.
Yeah, it feels like it could be. I mean, we've had lots of situations like that over the years with the two rookie wide receivers taken, and we get kind of overconfident in one or the other, whether because of their prospect profile or because of the draft capital. I mean, it didn't even really matter last year, but I think DK versus Iomanor would be a similar example of like we were all way more convinced that Ellick was going to be a thing than DK, and then DK had like a bigger role, was more explosive.
Yeah.
If you had to choose between one of them, we just over-indexed on the prospect we liked more. And wasn't DK was drafted ahead of Ellick as well, right?
I think that's true.
Yeah.
They're both.
And so it'd be like a similar
guys,
thing where like we're all a sucker for Surratt's like hyper productive college profile. If one of them is Puka, it's probably Surratt. But if one of them hits, it's probably Jacoby Lane.
Yeah, and they're talking about Lane as like we're gonna have a red zone package for Lane and stuff like that, which is both like not that exciting because you want to hear like, hey, what you're hearing about Surratt is way more exciting. Like he's gonna play inside, he's gonna be, you all of a sudden you're thinking of him as like big slot, like getting like really high targets per out run. And like producing like a real receiver, like a starter, basically. Lane, you're like, okay, you might have like a red zone package. Like, what are you gonna score like 4 or 5 touchdowns? It's like, well, what if he did? Hang on, what if he scored 5 touchdowns and they're like back weighted? That might actually be pretty helpful. So there's like this, you can't dream as much on Lane from what they're saying right now. But you also do have a guy who like he had a 31% dominator rating in 2024. And it was driven by 12 touchdowns. He had 46% of USC's touchdowns that year. He shared the field with Mekhi Lemon, and he was a guy that they utilized in the red zone. He was very productive there. He was a true sophomore that season. He was 20 years old. Like, he didn't have an insane final season. 2.05 yards per team attempt is not like amazing, but it's not awful either. So I don't know. I think Lane is a dude who, could just be like the good version of like, he kind of could be like what people are hoping Flournoy is, basically. Like I think he's like, he probably pops up for some weeks, but you're getting him completely for free. And I think those weeks are probably backweighted. So just a good guy to kind of keep in the mix as opposed to like deciding that I know the future and the future is Surratt, which is like what I want to do. I think that is more fun. But I also think Jacoby Lane, who again was a 3rd round pick, Surratt was a 4th round pick. Like we have to be open-minded to him being the right way to play a good situation.
Yep. All right. Let's recap this team now that we landed the plane. There's already some whispers. A lot of the chat liked it, but Evan comes in and says wide receiver might be too light, fellas.
Ooh.
Let's recap and see if there's some truth to this statement. Basically, Pat's wet dream at quarterback, Drake May and Patrick Mahomes. The running backs, rock solid. Bijan, Jeremiah Love, Bashal Tutin, and then we go double Titans bell cow, as Robert Saleh would say, Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears. The wide receivers, we do get to 8 here. Rashee Rice, Waddle, Worthy, Dobbs, Samuel, Jeremy Bernard, Calvin Ridley, Jacoby Lane, a mix of correlation, veterans, rookies, etc. And then the 3 tight end room, Kelsey, Hunter Henry, Pat Freiermuth. The wide receiver thing is why I did like going Jacoby Lane over a 4th tight end there.
Yeah.
I don't think this team is weak at wide receiver with 8 bodies here.
I don't either. And I think like this is, the Debo thing is, someone commented like, I can't wait until these guys sign so I can stop taking them. And I'm like emotionally with you, but like if Debo signs and is, looking like a solid kind of guy, you're taking like 30 picks higher than we are now, just because we know where he is, this team looks better. You're kind of getting, and we have Ridley along with Debo. where you're like, yeah, this room's like gonna contribute. Like in week 4, like we'll be all right at receiver. And then when we get to week 14, 15, 16, 17, we could actually be feeling really good at receiver if Bernard and Lane are producing. And, maybe Ridley's not at that point. But I think the other guys, it's not like a dusty room. Rice, Waddle, Worthy, Dobbs, these are all like fairly young receivers plus 2 rookies. So we have 2 chaperones, but one of the chaperones is like 30 in Debo. It's not too bad. I think Ridley's actually like around 30, but he's just kind of dusty.
Yeah.
Ridley's 31.
To me, like on the wide receiver thing, right? Like we were talking about Jaylen Waddle. Like, do you need some things to go right for this wide receiver room to work? Absolutely. And you could say the same about basically any team. But like the thesis is Rashee Rice does what he's always done when he's out on the field. Waddle turns in the George Pickens season where he becomes a monster in a new environment. Worthy and Dobbs as those ping-ponging, spike weeks because you're attached to 2 of the best offenses in football. You have veterans in Debo and Calvin Ridley who are going to earn targets wherever they may be in the case of Debo. And then you take 2 rookie flyers and in hope that you can get that quintessential, it doesn't even have to be a triple or a home run. You take a single or a double from a Bernard or a Jacoby Lane, and then nobody's going to have questions about the tight end room. Like you can go to war with a Kelsey, Henry, Freiermuth there. I think the team works.
Yeah. The other thing is that if you're going to say the team is weak at wide receiver, I think the spot that like stands out is, are you sure that Xavier Worthy and Romeo Dobbs are worthy of being your wide receiver 3 and wide receiver 4? And when you have Patrick Mahomes and Drake May, I think that bet is a lot cleaner, right? It's like these, if these picks were correct at quarterback, then those receivers could pretty easily pay off those prices and build out depth to a receiver room at, a pretty cheap cost where you're also really strong at running back, and then you have some rookie firepower coming on late to maybe elevate it beyond just like competent to where it's like actually, a strength of the team by the end of the season. So having the stacking element with the depth where like, yeah, Worthy ideally is your wide receiver 4, but on this team, I think we made good use of the picks ahead of that. And then we ended up landing the plane. So yeah, we pushed it a little. We did, but I like where we ended up.
As do I. Another nice team in the books here. If I think back on all of my frustrations with naked Patrick Mahomes, there's a phrase, Pat, that you got to crack a few eggs to make an omelet. And I feel like we finally made our omelet here.
This does feel like an omelet. And I look forward to next week when we draft naked Mahomes.
We'll be right back on our bullshit. Pat, do you have Coach Speak show today?
Yes. Coach Speak Index, legendary Coach Speak. I'll be on with Greg Branos from the Coach Speak Index to talk through some of the news and notes from the various, Coach Speak that we've gotten recently. Talking Jags. They're talking about tight ends. Team with probably the deepest, don't want to talk about wide receiver depth. Maybe the deepest team at wide receiver in the NFL. Can't wait to play tight end. So that seems good. And then we're also talking about the Chargers with this Mike McDaniel Coach Speak around Justin Herbert's footwork, and we'll get into the lad stuff as well.
Beautiful. Been really enjoying both those shows you've been doing with Coach Speak and Sam. The fellows will be back tomorrow night for ADP chasing. We'll be back on Wednesday for ship chasing. Need to figure out what we want to do for that show. As far as my schedule, we got the 2 shows tonight, the debut live premiere of the So You Think You Can Tout debate episode with Jacob Sanderson overseeing things as our guest judge for that debate. Very fun stuff there. And then immediately following at 9 p.m. Eastern, there is going to be an elimination that's going to take place. We're going to need you guys to help us decide who stays, who goes. You'll want to tune in at 9 p.m. Eastern for that. And then tomorrow I'm out. I'm not doing Swolecast. I'm not doing Off and On the Clock. I'm going to Germany and Ghana game down the road at Gillette there, aka Boston Stadium. And then I'll see you guys back on Wednesday. Thank you to producer Mark. Thank you to guest Mark Dank subbing in for Adam Levitan. Thank you to Sam. Thank you to Pat. Thank you to all 600 plus of you guys who have been hanging out today watching the show. Enjoy your week. Good luck drafting, and we will see you next Monday on the next edition of Best Ball Breakfast. Peace out.